Hello and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, joined as always by Matt and Shed. How are you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing well.
I I am slowly going insane because my definitely my oldest daughter was on winter break for 2 weeks. My youngest one actually went back to her daycare for a couple of days last week. Um, then it snowed. It snowed this weekend. Down to like depending upon where you were, but in our area, probably at least like 7 inches. So they shut down the schools. They're shut down again tomorrow. So
Yeah.
we're going on week 3 of winter break, and I'm going insane. Like because all like my leave was for the year was done. So my wife and I've been at work.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just want to do my job and I can't, with 2 small children running around. Thankfully, my youngest child, who's not yet 2, like her daycare opens again tomorrow. So it's like, oh, thank God. Like, not that you want to do this, but it's like my 5-year-old. It's like, okay, well, it may have to be a watch TV all day for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Like, as much as we don't like to do that. We don't like to give her screen time, but
Yeah.
otherwise, I've been going insane, Chad, with small children running around, destroying my house, fighting with each other. I'm sitting at my work computer trying to type today, and every 5 minutes, it's like one of those
Daddy. Yeah.
yeah, or one of them's running and tattling. My 2-year-old can't even really talk that much when she's coming. It's like, Daddy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, oh God.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
every time I have a meeting without fail, the dogs want to go out, or like if I'm on camera, they want me to hold them. So
my kids. Traditional snow day Monday, NTI, non-traditional instruction day today, non-traditional instruction day tomorrow. Guess what? I'm still driving to the jail in the morning.
What does that mean? What is non-traditional?
Non-traditional. So what they do is they have in early December they send home this packet, and in the packet is it's like non-traditional day 1, and it's different subject areas and some homework to do for each one of them.
is it so they can weasel out of snow days and not have to do makeups at the end of the year?
It's a way that they can do. They can still have days where there's supposed to be instruction taking place, but then they're not getting hit. They came up with it during COVID, and they were like, "Wait, this is a workable idea." So they can have days where the kids don't have to come to school, but there's still technically instruction coming. And so they don't have to feel so hamstrung on the process. And frankly, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, as far as compromises go, that's all right.
I guess I am. Well, now I have kids, and I have kids. Okay, when I was a kid, obviously, it's like snow day, yay! It's like now an adult. It's like I like snow days like a few years ago when a snow day meant I would actually get the day off. But now I work from home, so I can telework every day. So that's great. But the flip side of that is like I don't get snow days. Like if it snows, it's like that's great. You still got to shovel all that crap outside. At some point today. But you're at work, and that's fine. I mean, that's the trade-off, right? But when I have 2 small children running around, I can't do that. So every time like the schools are closing, I'm like, "Urgh." But I guess also when I was a kid, okay, like we got like 6-7 inches, great. Back when I was a kid, because I live in the same area that I grew up in, that would have 6 inches. They'll close school, but not for 3 days straight.
No,
you would have been lucky to get a second day.
Yeah,
we might have gotten a second day based on what we got here, but like I think the most I ever got in a row was 3, and that was like minus 20 degrees with like 10 inches of snow.
So what we had here that I had to bust up and then shovel out of the driveway so we get one of the cars out was 3-4 inches of snow, then an inch of ice, and then another inch of snow on top of it. So I had to bust all that and then shovel it, which that's the people call, or cardiac doctors call those widow makers, because apparently the first snow is whenever the most heart attacks happen. And I had a little chest pain scare back in mid-December, so I went to a cardiologist today, and they were like, "So how are you?" I was like, "I had to shovel my drive yesterday." She goes, "Well, you're not dead, so that's a good sign."
So the scam I pulled this time was I put the cars on one side of the driveway behind each other, so then I had less driveway to shovel to get out.
That's not a bad plan, but it was still...
And I have
so iced over that I had to bust the car out anyway.
I have a much shorter driveway now because the old one was like a 90-degree angle, so like shoveling it was a death trap and just a mess.
Yeah.
So this one's flat and like I think maybe it's a double driveway, but it's probably like a third the length of the old driveway. So it's a lot easier.
I don't know. I just feel like the schools shut down easier now and for longer.
No, they do,
and
because
I don't know.
We didn't here. So here we did not get off for like we probably would for extremely low temperatures, but like if it gets under like 10 degrees here, they start calling school off, which they never did when we were kids.
Yeah, I don't know. This isn't a political statement, but I do feel like post-COVID, I almost am suspicious where it's like the schools just not want to work.
No, they were doing it before here. Like I think, and I kind of understand. Like it was dumb when I was a kid. Like why did you have kids waiting for the bus for 20 minutes in 2-degree weather? Like that's kind of shitty.
It's So
my
that I could kind of understand. Oh, sorry to cut you off. But I could, if it has snowed. And it's also like 2 degrees. It's like, okay, that I get it. Like
the one I don't get is where it hasn't even snowed and they've like already called school off for 2 days. It's like you don't even know if it's gonna snow.
And they kind of did that this week, but the snow wasn't supposed to start until like 10 p.m. at the earliest on Sunday night, and it was expected to continue until like midnight the following day, so basically Tuesday. And it was expected to dump at least like 6 inches. 6 inches was like the minimum, and I think it did do at least that. So in that case, I'm like, yeah, all right, I get you and call it, because it's already going to have dumped a few inches, and it was supposed to be heavy during the morning commute, and it kind of was. So that, yeah, I'm fine with that. But to your point though, Brad, like last year they called it early, and then it did 2 inches of snow. And in like 2 inches, they canceled school, and then it snowed 2 inches. Like that should barely qualify for like a late start, in my opinion.
And I think I don't remember how many days we got here before you had to do makeup days, but I think they extended it to 10. But I want to say it was maybe 5 when I was a kid. Because I think we had to do makeup days 1 year. Because it was ridiculous, and we had like 8 days off.
It was 1994, I think.
I think that's the year it was here, where it was like super cold and like a ton of like negative 30 degrees and a ton of snow.
So what happened that year, at least in the central Kentucky area, is there is no weatherman who will use the phrase light dusting anymore, because in 1994 they were calling for a light dusting to come through, and it dumped a foot in one night, and it was so cold that it wouldn't go away. And so that year I was in school that year, and when that happened, and they were like, look, if we don't want to run the school year on too late, then we've got to take 3 days out of spring break, but we're not going to hold it against anybody who's not there for it. And so it was like, my family was like, hey, guess what, we already paid for a trip to Florida. So
yeah, I think that's the year it happened here.
Yeah, that was the great light dusting of '94.
Yeah,
carries a lot of weight.
I was supposed to go in office today, and I had car trouble, which this is like the worst day to need your car towed.
Yeah,
it's fixed now, but I knew exactly what it was. Like my spark plugs went bad, needed replaced. I thought I had more time, and I didn't realize like I had like one more drive in it, and then it wouldn't like go over 15. And like I had an old car that had some problems with that, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like my old car, so I'm gonna my I had some help and got my spark plugs replaced, and it's all better now. So because I was gonna do it myself, because I was like, well, I can do it myself. Then I watched someone try to do like a fit, and they had to take out like the bay with the windshield wipers. And I'm like, oh fuck! Like, why is this so? You had to like take it off, take part of the engine out, and then reach like back behind. And I'm just like, why? Why is it that complicated?
Do you have a Chrysler product, Brad?
No, I have a Honda. I have a Honda Fit.
What year?
2013.
Okay, so when I was young or like a teenager, like one of my old man's like hobbies was to work on like junk cars, but it was old crap. Like you're talking about like stuff from like the 80s and oldest is like the 90s. So I have actually replaced like spark plugs before, but back in the day it was like easy.
Yeah, everything was just like, in
it was right there in the engine. You would just like pull out the spark plug wire, take a wrench and like a socket wrench. You had to have like the deep socket wrenches,
and it's got a washer in it, or it's got like a rubber gasket in it.
Yeah, and then like undo the spark plugs, put it back in. The only where it would get complicated is sometimes you had to like open the spark plugs. They had like a little circular tool that you could do to like open it to the right setting, but it was simple. Like you could do it probably. You could replace all of them probably like an hour or less.
Yeah,
now
I did
though,
that.
It's exactly like Brad said, where it's like, well, your first step in doing that is to take off half the engine block. Yeah. It's like, no, like I wouldn't even know where the hoses go back now.
Well, at least
like I'm not.
The good thing though is, and anyone that hasn't owned a house or is buying a house, YouTube is your best friend when you have to do repairs. Like I have fixed plumbing. I have replaced tubing and bicycle tires, and I've done like a bunch of like light work because of YouTube. There was one though I had to replace. The company did it. I had to replace. Those little washers you have to put in like the handle of a shower to get your shower to stop draining.
Yeah.
And it has like a spring and stuff in it. And the company had a YouTube video for it, and then they didn't show the guy put it in the thing. And I'm like, well, what the fuck is the like? What was the point? I can't even. I don't even know what you did.
There is a. Oh, go ahead, Chad.
In November, I replaced all of the spark plugs in my car, and I replaced the driver's door handle in it. And the spark plugs weren't hard. It's a Toyota product, and you just take the spray cover off, and it's just all right there across the top. It's like, love it. Took me 30 minutes. But I ran into the same thing where I'm having to take the interior door panel off, and the first video I watched is like, okay, take that off, and then he just jumps to it. And I'm like, take it? How? What am I taking off? What do I do? Where? Do I just grab it and start pulling like a gorilla? Is that what it is? And then I go to a different one. And it's like, and the guy's like, yeah, there's another video where the guy just says, the screws are here, 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 and here. Don't take the other ones off because that does something. I'm like, thank you.
No, see what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is get a club and start clubbing it like a caveman while grunting. Or you just do it and scream Captain Caveman and the car fixes itself.
I do it and mutter. Working on a car is when I am the most profane in my life. I utter more profanity working on a car than any other time in my life.
At the old house, because I pretty much just buy Hondas because Hondas are well-made vehicles. The guy across the street worked at the assembly factory and was retired, and he was just like, yeah, just go buy me the part, give me $50, I'll do it for you. And he lived right across, like he did my brakes. The brakes were $200 and he's like, yeah, give me $50. I'm like, just $50? Like, yep.
That's a good dude to have around.
He has the knowledge. It probably will take him like an hour to do it. And it's like, yeah, you just give him like beer money for like a while, like the weekend or whatever like that. They're to the point of like YouTube. There's like it's to the point where it's like a meme. There's a meme where I've seen it. Maybe you guys have seen it, but like I've seen it on social media, like Twitter, whatever like that. It's like, God bless, like the dude on YouTube with a foreign accent or a weird accent who has like 8 followers, but they'll post videos explaining how to do everything. Like, and it's like, okay, today we're going to completely rebuild your engine, and it's like, okay, and it's like, oh damn, and like I've used a guy. He wasn't like a foreign guy, but it was like some southern dude who clearly is like, you're a contractor, you're a mechanic, whatever. You work on HVACs or something. He's like, all right, we're going to show you how to replace these parts in your toilet, and then like he did it. He showed it.
He shows you like step by step,
and I'm like, damn, because it's like I did some of that stuff like with my dad, but that's years ago. So it's like they've actually changed stuff inside like a toilet now. So it's like, how do I get the damn cylinder out? The guy's like, here's how you do it. Click,
those ones.
Like, oh, damn!
I had one of those. The ones with the cylinder versus like the whole old school, like you know, like.
I like the old school
flapper.
Yeah,
thing.
Those are easy to replace.
The flapper.
The cylinder. I had to replace one of those. Well, one, getting the part was ridiculous, but it was hard. Like the other ones, you just like pull it out, make sure you got stuff to catch all the water. You just screw the new one in, you're good. Like the cylinder, you got to make sure it like is on right. Then it's gonna come up enough, and like there's enough water. It sucked.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the one thing with new cars though that I hate is like when you want to do something. Saturns were notorious for this, which is like, oh, you want to replace your headlight? Sorry, you need a special tool that costs $300.
Now the question is, was this Saturn before or after GM got pissy and decided they couldn't be a separate brand anymore?
It was it was like a 2005 maybe.
So
and like
that's after the GM takeover, and those Saturns are all rebadged Opals from Europe.
And it's the battery was in the trunk. That car was an abomination.
And I don't have a problem with the battery in the trunk. It keeps it clean. It means that you don't have.
But the problem is then you have a big ass battery in your trunk. They didn't like hide it or anything. You just have batteries.
They didn't. Oh.
They just had a fucking battery in the back.
God. All right. Like the Saturns before that were kind of their own thing, and God, they still run around today, and they still look all right because they've got plastic body panels, so it's you don't get dings in those. They just pop back out. But then GM got all pissy, and they're like, well, Saturn gets special treatment. It's like, oh, well, that's because... And they're like, well, we're not doing that anymore. It's just like, you guys get European crap, and then you can just be happy with it, and they killed it off. So...
What car... I'm old, so I get it. Was it the Ford Pinto that it was notorious that it would explode in like rear collisions because they put the gas tank...
No. That was a whole scandal. It didn't actually.
Oh, that was
explode.
The Ralph Nader thing, wasn't it?
No, that was the Dateline thing where they faked the footage, or they
there was,
or they did it in such a way that was like they either staged it entirely or they did it in such a way that literally that would never happen to a car.
They did that with a Ford Ranger, because the Ford Ranger had a gas tank that was like side mounted, so they put pyrotechnics on the side of it to get their effect. But there was. If you did not do it in like the 60s model Mustangs and you got rear-ended, it had a possibility of knocking the gas tank through the back seat and igniting it. But then what was the Ralph Nader car? Was that the Chevelle? The one that he had was just a horrendous death trap. That I think that was one of the things. And then the other thing about it is it did not have a floor heater. You just kicked a vent open and it would vent heat directly from the manifold in the engine bay or something like that.
Oh, that sounds like carbon monoxide waiting to happen.
Right? It's like Nader really... It was the Corvair. Thank you, Vectron. Vectron reminding. But, it was...
Oh, I haven't heard Corvair in forever.
Yeah. It was... It's weird. You go through periods of really good, solid cars, and then somebody somewhere gets a bug up their ass, and they start making just utter... They go the Nissan route and just make utter garbage and then don't fix them up.
We've been in a pretty good era for like the last decade. Like pricing-wise, been terrible, but like there hasn't been like a real bad spat of cars in a while.
And the pricing stuff is... A lot of it is because of the safety stuff they have to put in now. Well, and I'm not saying safety's bad, but
the problem is though, so they're taking out like they're not selling like beginner cars anymore. So like they're doing away with like the smaller subcompacts like the Fit, which you can still get in Europe, but they're doing that to price you into more expensive cars. And the other problem is they've totally fucked the used car market. So like a lot of times you go for like one of those pre-certified used cars, you're honestly better off like with the payment you're gonna get. You might as well just go buy a new car because the payment just as bad.
Now I sold like it was early 2023, so it's been almost 2 years to the date. But I sold like an old car we had, and it was like a 2012. So when I sold it, it was like over 10 years. I sold it to CarMax, and I got like a decent amount of money for it. Which is like they gave me enough money that it's like you have to make money on this, so you will likely sell this for at least like 1,000 or more over what you're giving me for it. And it's like, this is a 10-year car. It wasn't a bad car, but it's like, if I'm in the market, like, why would I want to spend like a few thousand on this versus like I could just get a new car?
It depends.
Or honestly, like you could honestly go on Facebook Marketplace. And I've seen cars for like, here's like $2,000, and it's like, yeah, you get a car that maybe has like 180,000 miles on it. So it's like, ooh, but it's almost like I'd almost be better off just doing that.
It depends on what the car is though. So like I have a Honda Fit. Like Honda Fits do not lose value because they are so in demand by people that modify them. That like my car is 11 years old. If I sold it on Kelley Blue Book, I could get $8,000 for it, and I bought it for $15,000.
So, like my car straight up
New, by the way, when I bought.
My car is 19 years old. It is an 06 Scion, which is a rebadged Toyota, and it's fantastic. It is a, everything. First of all, parts aren't expensive because it was the same parts that were in Camrys and Corollas, but it's in a different shape, and so it's been fantastic. I don't like buying new stuff. The depreciation of cars drives me crazy. If I went and bought a new car, the depreciation would drive me bonkers. And my dad said something that stuck with me in a big way was, a car is going to nickel and dime you to death. Either you're going to be making payments or you're going to be fixing something. There's no buy it and then don't worry about it car.
I technically have a second car. We don't really drive it, and it's at this point I bought it in 2011, so I've had it for a long time, and I'm keeping this as like, well, maybe we need a second car. We're not using it. I actually need to get it inspected, so I can't even drive it right now. But I have two small kids, so it's like it's a good idea to have two cars because it's like maybe one person has to be doing something with one kid, or maybe someone has to do something with the other kid, or maybe one person just needs the car with the car seats.
Yeah.
And the other one needs to do something else. Like, it makes sense. But whenever I get rid of this car, we're probably going to... We bought a car 2 years ago, and that's great. And that's the car we use for the kids. Chad, you would appreciate this. Kids destroy cars. Like, my car isn't... I literally can go out, get it detailed, come back within like an hour. It's just like filthy again because the kids just... Like, they'll eat and they'll just like throw wrappers or crumbs everywhere, and it's like, this is a mess. So next car, we'll probably lease a car because it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm kind of throwing money because it's like I got to make a lease payment, but it's also like you're gonna destroy this car. Like, I might as well just like have the option to maybe get rid of it in a couple of years after I've leased it. I have a question though for you guys. Have you guys seen? Here in the DC area, Teslas are everywhere. Have you guys seen like the Cybertruck?
Yes.
There's things I've seen quite a few around this area.
First time I saw a Cybertruck in person was going through a McDonald's drive-through.
Have I seen a Cybertruck? Are they real weird looking?
Yeah, they look like they're PS1 graphics.
Okay, I think
they look. The best description I saw of them, I heard of them, and I think it's funny because it's true. They look, design-wise, they look like basically a child, like a child's drawing of what a truck looks like, where it's just big blocks and angular.
Yeah.
It's like, it looks like that. It looks like a child's drawing.
it is a horrific. Like it's not. You can't truck with it because guess what? The back bed's tilted downward towards the back end. It's not tilted downward towards the cab. It's tilted downward towards the back end. It is just a gigantic status symbol that rusts in the rain.
I will say the cars Tesla puts out look amazing.
Rusts in the rain.
I think I don't know how comparable they are to other cars, but I did look into once. It's like, what if I want to, like, if I got a Tesla, like, how much am I looking at? And the cheapest model Teslas aren't like crazy expensive.
No,
they're like
they've been bringing them down. Like they have like a 30 grand model. Because I had looked at it when I was thinking about a new car, and they're the lower end ones are surprisingly affordable. Like it's not like they're like a huge status symbol. You can get them pretty easy. What I found is the problem with those, and it's not a Tesla thing, it's an electric car thing. Like for my lifestyle, I do long road trips sometimes, and electric cars are just not meant for.
Yeah.
So
any kind of road trip.
We do road trips. At least I'd say 3 or 4 times a year, and we'll do stuff like, like in the fall, we'll like, let's go to the pumpkin patch, and the pumpkin patch may be like an hour away. Like that would probably be too long, but that's not a huge road trip. But we could do it in terms of like, we probably have lots of places, because there's lots of places in the area to do electric charging. The big thing is like we live in the suburbs, so if I wanted to have an electric car, like I need to actually have one of those charger units installed at my house. Yeah. And I know people. I have a friend who, like he works kind of in the contracting world, so he's like, you can do that, but it's gonna cost you like a few thousand just to install that. So then it's like. Yeah. Well, I don't want to. I'd have to pay like $5-6 grand to just have this installed on top of like whatever it costs for the car. So it's like,
So there's another YouTube channel I like called Regular Car Reviews, and at the end of the month, one of the guys on it, because there's Mr. Regular and there's the Roman. At the end of the month, the Roman does a longer form video, and the thing that he was talking about from when I was watching yesterday was that the hybrid market has really picked up, because the idea of being able to do some electric and saving gas on in-town driving kind of stuff appeals to people, but having an internal combustion engine for the longer trip that you can fill back up easily and that sort of stuff is also really appealing to people. So that's like the idea behind electric is whenever there's going to be a big battery technology breakthrough, that's going to change the game on it. It's going to be a big deal, because then they're like, okay, these can run longer and charge faster. The chemistry breaks down if you charge them too fast. But whenever that hits, it'll be great, but it hasn't.
Oh, Shad died. Let's see if he comes back. Live recording. Yeah, it was pretty affordable. Like, but the problem I have is I don't really want to give up my car, because what the nice thing about a Fit is the back seats lay flat, and then you have like SUV size. Like I brought like a 58-inch TV home in the back of my Fit because of how much storage there is in the back. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, my Scion is an XB. It's a toaster. I can do the same thing. I brought home Christmas trees in that thing. I bought a new TV and brought it home with that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's not quite big enough to do stuff like bookshelves or something like that. But then again, I get 30 miles to the gallon in this, and I can sit in it comfortably at my size.
I think I get like 35. Actually, you would be surprised if you've seen a Fit. Like, it's pretty roomy on the inside. Like, people get in, it's like, this thing is this big on the inside. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. XB's the same way. The XB, I think the technical designation is that it's a tall wagon.
And I get pissed off when I get in other cars. Because the other nice thing about, well, the older Fits, the newer Fits have less, but like my car has like 6 cup holders in it. Like they have 2 up on the dashboard and like the 2 where they usually are, and then there's 2 in the doors. and it's really nice when you're on a road trip because you can like work
Here and
with it.
here and here and
Yeah,
here.
and
Yeah.
it's a good place to hide my Aldi quarters.
Yeah, I understand that. So, what are we getting into tonight now that we've had car talk?
Yes. So this is our end of year awards episode. We're going to be doing those for 2024. We will be getting into those. I watched a bit of Raw last night, and wasn't very good. I'm actually surprised. Most of the people I know that watch Raw tapped out, and I'm talking about like hardcore fans tapped out on it.
It depends on if you are, a WWE diehard fan.
No, but that's who was tapping out on it. They were just like, I can't, like,
really,
because they were just, because a lot of them were just like, look, like it's taking too long to get to the ring. Like the tribal combat, thing, I think is pissing people off because the point of tribal combat is there isn't supposed to be outside interference, and then there's a shit ton of outside interference the 2 times they've done tribal combat.
That's every bloodline match.
What makes it different than a no DQ match? And the answer is, do you have a Samoan in it or a tribal person in it?
No. I think it's tribal combat because Paul Heyman yells tribal combat around the ring like constantly to remind you of tribal combat.
Okay,
but
that's good.
I think the problem with starting off with that match is no one believed Solo was going to win, and they did all this interference and stuff. So why have a 20-minute match with Solo? And I kind of think like if I was booking, I don't know, why not just run John Cena versus Logan Paul to really like draw people in? I
don't think they want to give Logan Paul the match.
Yeah, but I mean, his brother just pulled in like 60 million viewers on Netflix.
The real answer to that is like when was the matches and everything planned for this? Because if you want to do Logan Paul, John Cena, you basically needed to go like 2 months ago to decide that, because that's apparently what Logan Paul does. Logan Paul, he rehearses his matches where it's like highly choreographed. And when he first started, I was very high on Logan Paul in terms of like he actually does have athletic ability and can do some impressive stuff. Then I think that if he actually applied himself, like trained to be a pro wrestler, like legitimately, and not just, he obviously has some training, so I'm not saying he's not trained, but literally went through everything, the PC or something else, he could be a pretty good pro wrestler. And not that he's terrible, but it's also like everything he does is highly choreographed. So I think that's someone that he can't just go out there and call it in the ring, and they need to plan it out really, really well.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of their talent that can't. And I mean, I'm just being honest. I think if you had the choice between sending him out or Solo, I would send Logan out.
But Logan probably needs like a lot of rehearsal to get through his I Stole Hangman Page's moves match.
I mean, he does them better than Punk does.
True. Well, he's also has, again, that goes back to him.
He has athletic.
Yeah, actually athletic. Yeah.
Here's the bar, Brad. Here's the bar right there. Okay.
I mean, he has decent aptitude at it though. Like I think if he was younger and had devoted it to it full time, he'd be pretty decent.
The other side may be
that's my point. Yeah.
John Cena didn't want to work with him. That could be entirely. Cena's just like, screw it, I'm not working with him. And they're like, well, John, you need to do that, and he can be like, you know what, I don't have to do this.
Honestly, I don't even think it crossed their minds to do something like that, because the problem I saw with it, and there were a lot of people online were defending it like, well, it wasn't for fans, like this was for new people, and I'm like, what new person would watch that show and have any reason to care about anything?
That was a criticism I did see, where I think it was it Suit Williams?
Yeah.
On Twitter, I think he was basically like, this was basically, it was a narcissistic display. It was the company basically patting itself on the back for 3 hours, of which, to the point, like it was a 3-hour show of which people clock it, and some people get annoyed at clocking it, but it matters because the criticism leveled against WWE is that it's all style, no substance. So they had a 3-hour show of which only 1 hour was wrestling, and it wasn't like, I guess in their defense, it was only 4 matches, but that's a problem. It's like 3-hour show, you had 4 matches.
Yeah.
And granted, like they mostly were a couple big, like marquee matches, I guess, but you should have more. It's wrestling. That's actually the point of this. And you're doing the first Raw on Netflix. You're trying to style it essentially as like a mini pay-per-view.
Yeah, and you really got to hit.
You have 4 matches.
And they kind of did it with Saturday Night's main event. You really got to hit them with, like, what only wrestling can give you. And talking, like, I don't think really does that. Especially, like, I don't think they have, like, a great talker in the current, like, their current roster that can really, like, give them that. But, like, I think this is past them. I think wrestling's just bad. It's like comic books. When comic books try to bring newcomers in and they just fail every time, I think wrestling has the same problem beyond them. Like, they just don't know how to get out of that, like, that bubble. Because I think AEW would screw it up in a different way if they had the same opportunity. Like, I think they would they would go really heavy into the wrestling. It's like, well, no, you need the Muppet Show around the wrestling too, guys. Like, so I think like, well, I think that's also an issue. Like, there's gotta be the right mix. Like, you need the whole, like, show to be.
Well, this goes into the whole thread of AEW can, in some people's eyes, can do nothing right, and people will bitch and complain, because one of the things that obviously, like, WWE people have been like, is like, why is it all just wrestling? You guys don't have, like, video packages and stuff like that. So this past Monday was the first Dynamite on Max. They're simulcasting on Max, and there is actually AEW content now available on Max. I actually started watching not Double or Nothing, but All Out 2019, because I was actually there live at Double or Nothing 2019. I should go back and see that just to see how it comes off, like, on TV versus when I was watching it live. But I started watching All Out 2019. It's on Max, available. Like, I started watching it the other night. But this was the first simulcast, and apparently I didn't watch it, like, on Max. I usually, to the extent that I could ever watch stuff live, it's on, like, it's on cable TV. But they were actually showing some video packages on Dynamite to kind of in that you could say, like, well, they should do it a certain way, they should maybe do it more, etc. But they were doing some video packages. So people who are just now tuning in to AEW, like, on Max or whatever, or they're first time viewers, here's a little bit of background. There are some people disingenuously, I feel, bitching. It's like, oh, you guys say that video packages are important. It's like, shut the f up. Come on.
No.
Like, you bitching and complaining, like, oh, I need to be spoon-fed. You guys don't do video packages. So they do some, like, limited video packages, and you're mocking them for doing it. And I get you're trying to be like you guys are being hypocrites type of thing, but it's like, what do you want?
It's
like, you want.
I think though, situationally, and even if Raw had done this, I think it would have been fine. Like, when you're on a new platform like that and people are going to be checking you out, doing, like, short video packages of, like, hey, this is so-and-so, showing them doing some moves and stuff, maybe having them cut, like, a short promo, I think that would actually be really positive for both WWE and AEW in their situations, because you want to start hitting people with your talent. And you want them to, like, be like, well, oh, who's that guy? Like, oh, that movie's doing is kind of cool. Like, you should kind of do that to build some intrigue. And so I think that would have been a good move from both companies.
I think the criticism was disingenuous to start with, for the simple reason that AEW did do video packages. They just weren't very long. They'd be like a minute or two, because what are they? They're a quick primer for what you're getting ready to see. It's just like, here's quick catch up. And then so to say, well, they don't do video packages, like, well, okay, so you're demonstrating that you don't watch that show because you're parroting a new criticism that everyone talks about.
Yeah, my biggest criticism of them would not be that. My criticism is sometimes they did this with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So it happens a lot, but like there's times where they depend on you, like knowing like stuff outs like that's my problem when companies do that. Like they expect you to have like outside knowledge. Like, oh well, they had this PWG like match and like feud like 5 years ago, and then they play that into like the AEW feud, which they've done, and WWE has done a bit. But then they don't really explain it to you, and it's like, well, no. And they did this with Dark. They were really bad about this with Dark, where they'd be like, "Oh, this team's won like 6 matches in a row, and like 4 of them were on Dark." And it's the same thing I say all the time though. If it did not happen on the main TV show or the secondary show, like if it didn't happen on Dynamite and Collision, it did not happen. Like,
yeah.
What were you gonna say, Matt?
There a fair criticism of AEW with video packages or extra material that I do think is, I will give the people, and because I have had problems with this, is that they will do like video packages, or they will do something really interesting. Like it, I remember them doing it 2023 Continental Classic, and then they've done it in 2024 a little bit too. But it's like the Continental Classic, where you have Daniel Garcia. He did a better job than 2024 Continental Classic. With 2023, you know, he didn't do so well in tournament, and it'd be like, here's a 5-minute backstage like interview with him, or him cutting a promo, and Daddy Magic is coming up to him and giving him like a pep talk promo during it, and it's really compelling, it's really interesting, and all of that gets broadcast on AEW's Twitter, and it's like, I should be seeing this shit on like Dynamite or Collision or whatever, because this adds so much to this, to the drama, to the character, etc. And you're just showing it on social media. Now, I will say, like, there is something to be said about how you should be promoting your social media by being like, here's some exclusive content. But that's great. I think that is cool. But why don't you do like the exclusive content to be like, hey, here's like a funny 3-4 minute interview that Harley Cameron did with Renee Paquette or something, where it's like, it's cheeky, it's funny, like that's extra content that you can be amused by. Not like a really dramatic thing that actually helps get the tournament and these guys over. That should be like, take 5 minutes out of Dynamite.
MJF's promos.
Yeah. Like I don't need, sorry to say this, I don't need like a 10-15 minute Adam Cole Undisputed Kingdom segment. I don't. I'm sorry. I have gone back and forth on Adam Cole and AEW. I've never historically been an Adam Cole fan. His AEW run, there have been periods where I've kind of been won a little bit over with Adam Cole. It's 2025 now. A lot of people are off the Adam Cole train. I don't know. Tony Khan, I think, is an old school Ring of Honor fan, so he loves Adam Cole. I don't say Adam Cole doesn't have a place, but I don't know that I need 15 minutes of promo.
I hate to be
on a weekly basis.
I hate to be this guy. I really do. Adam Cole, I know I'm a fat fuck, but dude, you got to get to the gym. You got to get to the gym, dude.
Like, I have felt bad too, because it is to the point of really everyone body shames him, but it is also like Tony Khan has booked you or wants to book you at like world title level, main event level. You really should get a better physique. I don't need you Brian Cage, jacked to the gills.
No, just get back to where he was like before the injury.
He came back better from the after the injury than he was before he left, but still, it's not.
He's like Zack. He's almost where Zack Sabre Jr. was like a couple of years ago before he finally.
Zack Sabre Jr. though got himself in shape.
He got himself toned up. Yeah.
He looks so different. I saw him. At this point, it's been almost 6 years ago. He was in New York at the last Mania I went to. WrestleMania was like 30, like the one in New York where it was main evented by Becky and Charlotte and Ronda. He was there as part of like the Wrestle convention. He did some of the indie shows. I saw him, and at that point, I was like, "Dude, I'm as big as you, and I'm like the same size I am. I'm not a giant guy. I'm a medium-sized guy." I'm like, "Dude, I'm the same size as you," and I'm not hating on the guy, but it's like I'm like a regular dude. and I'm not even a large dude. I'm like 6 foot, like 175, 180. Like right now, Adam Cole, no offense, like I do Orange Theory, like the workout. I see dudes sometimes in Orange Theory that are bigger than Adam Cole, and they're not jack dudes. They're just in shape, toned dudes, and it's like this is kind of like a problem.
There's pictures of me. I've taken pictures of guys who've been near some of those indie guys, and like I've had my ups and downs with my weight, but just my natural build, like my shoulders and everything. There's times I look at myself standing next to a guy, I'm like, holy crap, like I'm way bigger than that guy. Just like my frame and stuff.
Well, yeah. No, he's super built now in great shape, but oh shit, gotta forget his name. Who's the dude married to Jordan Grace? Mr. Number 10.
Mark Gresham. Jonathan Gresham.
John Gresham. Oh, Jonathan Gresham, yeah. He is literally like we represent the lollipop. Yeah. Like he is a small man. He's probably like 5'4". Which is why it's like he's storming into Tony Khan, and it's like, what do you mean you're gonna book like Claudio for me? It's like
dude. I will give him.
You're complaining that Tony wants to book the 6'5", like extremely cut giant
Superman,
Swiss Italian dude. Yeah, against you. Like
he's at least in shape though. Like he's
fantastic shape.
Yeah,
he could do laps around me. Looks great. Like muscles, way more muscles than I have. But he's a small man. So
Adam Cole would need to either and I'm not saying he should, I'm not saying one or the other, but he either ought to take 6 months and have a dedicated lifting regime to bulk out a little bit. And I'm not saying hit the gas and do it, because I don't advocate for that, but fill out a little bit or lean up a bit and do some stuff and lean out a little.
He needs a little bulk to him, because the problem is like
he doesn't wrestle like his size. That's the thing that
is the thing. Yeah.
I'm not saying get on the gas. I'm just saying like, hey, dude, get in a tanning booth.
Well, that hasn't worked that well lately for him.
No.
And look, some of this, there are harsh realities that you have to face sometimes in life. One of the realities is that there is a genetic component to this. Instead of doing being well, substances that would artificially increase you.
Yeah.
If there are people who genetically are predisposed, obviously it's like
Lesnar.
Lesnar. It's like there are some people. It's like you grew up to be 6'5", 300 pounds. And then there are other people who are 5'8", and they could literally eat. They could gorge themselves on food every day and still be like 160 pounds. It's just that's just it is. Look at someone like Orange Cassidy, a big star, great shape. I think the dude even kind of has not washboard, but kind of like washboard abs.
Dude's leaned out,
fantastic shape, leaned out. Dude's like 40 and still has a great physique.
Yeah.
Is that a dude who I think is doing substances? No. Is that a dude who I also think is in the gym 8 hours a day? No, probably not. He's just a dude who I'm sure he does work out. I'm sure everything, but eats right, etc. But he also is a guy who probably genetically is predisposed to being leaner and have a good metabolism. So it's probably a little easier for him. And he probably has the muscle and bone structure to do that.
I'm sure
some guys don't.
Cassidy does a lot of cardio.
Yeah.
And Cole,
probably.
Cole, by his nature, if you've ever seen him live, he is a small guy. He's a very small guy. And I mean, funny you say about genetics, because they asked Waltman once if he did steroids. Yeah, and it didn't do anything for me. I didn't gain 1 ounce of muscle. But I don't know. I'm not trying to body shame him, because he gets body shamed too much. But wear different gear. Cover your body up more if it's not great.
Yeah. Look, when I was wrestling, I was in better shape than I am now, obviously. But even then, I had an undiagnosed thyroid issue. So what did I do? I wore a singlet with my pants, right? I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. That's gonna be a better look overall. And I know that part of the Adam Cole thing is the running gag from PWG. Like he sat in the chair and it was a bad chair and it fell apart, so the fat ass thing came from it or something. But it's just, look, in general, I'm just tired of Adam Cole. And maybe I'm not being fair, but I don't want to see him anymore, man. I've seen too much Adam Cole in the last 2-3 years.
I think the problem is Tony has this story he wants to tell with Cole. And by God, he's going to tell that fucking story, whether he's hurt or not. So we've been on this trajectory with him for like going on 3 years now, whether he's injured or not. And they just pick the story back up. So like, it's kind of just like, oh my God, this will not end. Like, I think if they would just have moved on and done something else with him when he came back, I think I would hate him less right now.
That is an enduring criticism that I've shared before about Tony. It's like, and maybe people are very down on AEW. Years ago, when we're talking about AEW, when it was viewed more favorably, is that AEW generally would give you the things that you wanted to see. Like it wasn't necessarily that subtle. It's like you could see the direction they were going, but you wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
So when they gave it to you, it was like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. Now, it's obvious to see that Tony, sometimes you could see the direction of where he wants to take a certain story, and he goes forward with it. Maybe you want the story, maybe you don't want the story, that's fine, but things will then happen. And if he, like an injury, that's the biggest thing. And there are many guys who've been injured at points in times when he's trying to do a story, and then he pauses the story, or the story just meanders for a while until the guy, whoever comes back from injury, they can finish the story. And it just sidetracks things, it derails things, the momentum loses it. Like, for example, I think, I don't know for sure, but it seems to me like logically obvious that the whole Elite versus Tony Khan storyline, a big factor was supposed to be because they had Kenny Omega get written off by being injured because he ultimately had to have surgery. It was out a year, but it seemed to be what they wanted to do was the Bucks, turning on Kenny, forming like a new Elite, and that would have built to them like feuding throughout the year. But Kenny, I think their idea was like, well, let's see how Kenny can come back. He obviously couldn't. He'd have surgery. He's going to be out a long time. So then it kind of fizzled, petered out. But clearly that's what they're going with. They were going to be like the new Elite with the Bucks and Okada
and Perry,
leading up to Kenny and maybe like Hangman or whatever. But it's going to be like a clash. You're going to have Kenny Okada again. You can see that's what he's wanting to go with. He couldn't, so it's just like it's just like meandering, petering out. Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
Okay. Yeah, and they kind of petered out, and now like he's gonna go back to that probably this year, and I'm just kind of like, man, like I'm kind of sour on the Bucks right now because I really didn't enjoy like the way they used them last year. So like where it might have been cool this year, that when they do it this year, I'm just gonna be like, the time is passed.
The Bucks just came out and said something that actually kind of annoyed me, and I love the Bucks. Because they had been criticized at points during the year where it's like, the Bucks aren't really like, they seem kind of washed, like they're not really the Bucks of old. They're kind of like, not doing as well. And they recently came out and it's like, yeah, like as part of our like executive like producers, like, EVP hotshot thing, we were deliberately like not doing as good in our matches because we wanted to have that impression of people like, oh, they're washed, because it was like placing our characters and being like, we're too big for this, we're gonna half-ass it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, haha, like got one over on everyone, and it's like, that's fucking stupid. Like, you're just working everyone for your own amusement. Like that didn't play into the storyline. No one got that to the point you're having to explain it. It's like the old adage, like if you have to explain the joke, and because people didn't get the joke, how great was the joke?
Yeah,
Like
the
joke didn't work.
I thought they were doing it intentionally, and it made sense to me. But like I think and I can see your point with that, but I also think too, like wrestling fans today are really fucking dumb, and they don't pick up on any kind of subtlety like that. But like if I was doing that, and like I was suddenly the commissioner and I was an active wrestler, like I'd kind of be dogging it too, because and I think like. But I have like really strong opinions, and you see this in Lucha a lot. Like, if I was like a flashy guy and I turned heel, I would tone it way down and be
you quit doing cool stuff because you don't want people to cheer for you.
Yeah, like there's a whole psychology to it. Like I'd even kind of boring it up a bit if I was a heel, because it would just to agitate people.
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense to me, but by saying it and putting a hat on it, that kills it.
Yeah,
you go then from the gag to now it's joke autopsy is the problem.
Yeah, because what you do is you when you're either in a special situation where you really have to, or like you go face again, you just bring it all back.
Yeah. Just fire it up and do the cool stuff again, and there you go.
But I thought that's what they were doing at the time, because I'm like, oh yeah, they're EVPs. Like, why do they have to do all this shit? Like, they have power and stuff. Like, why are they going to try as hard? They're just doing enough to get by. Like, I got it.
Yeah.
But like,
they're heels. They're not doing the cool stuff.
Yeah. Now, if they did it in character and were just like, they could have done it in character a different way and be like, yeah, why are we going to try? We're like executives in the company. We'll just give ourselves the belt back. Like.
But in any event, yeah, it's.
I mean, Nash is a lazy fuck, but he kind of did. They kind of did that with the NWO at points too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's get to the awards here.
Yep. Let's do that.
I want to say before we get into it though, I did not particularly think 2024 was a good year for wrestling. I thought Stardom was better without Rossi. I thought AEW wasn't great, but it was better than last year. I thought New Japan was just abysmally terrible this year.
It was not great. Yeah.
And WWE, I don't like WWE, but I thought 2024 was a major step down from 2023. Because there were things in 2023 that caught my interest, and like 2024 just had nothing for me to latch on.
There's a little bit that I see every now and then that's good stuff, but I think, it's not for me. I just don't watch the product anymore.
I think certain companies improved, but and there were some fantastic matches that occurred, but I think overall, and I mean like in the industry, it was a fairly down year. Like it's I know we're like, oh, people like over like a boom, and it's like, well, one company is kind of like doing well, but everything else is
and only the main brand, because their developmental is also on the downtrend with everything else.
Oh, the WWE's developmental is pretty bad. Like men and women, they're only saved in the women's side because they have two like really top tier talents in Stephanie Vacker and Julia.
But like they're
I guess Roxanne Perez is legitimately good too, but she was good before she even got there, and arguably she's maybe taken a step back or two because of things. But
their ratings have just been like in free fall since like the summer, like almost as much as like AEW in a lot of cases. Like I think AEW's had like a couple of decent numbers recently, but like just across the board it seems like everything. Well, TJPW did draw a really big an up house for their 1-4 show or 1-3 show. They drew like almost 1,500, which is like exceptionally good for them at Korakuen.
I think that this was like the highest they've done at Korakuen like ever by not like by like
100 people,
but well, they less than that, like by like 50. But still, it's like they I have to look to see what they drew in 2024, but
they
they're
drew so
plugging
for this
along.
show I looked it up. So they drew like 1483 this year, and then last year they drew like 1240 or something. So that's a pretty significant increase for like the same building. And their numbers have been kind of uptrending a bit because, interestingly enough, Marigold was doing better than them at first, but Marigold
first debuted.
Yeah, but they're like for similar shows, they're doing about the same now, and TJPW's kind of upticking, and Marigold is kind of declining. But like
for those who don't know, Marigold was the company that Rossi formed when he left Stardom, or he was fired from Stardom. To that, I would have to say, like, I think that it did well initially because it's like it's new. There's the excitement of new, like, what is Rossi going to accomplish with this? And then they had the first couple shows, but then they realized that outside of like 3 or 4 people, they don't have any stars. So it's just then
they're running too many shows too. Like they ran, I looked it up, it was insane. Like from they started in May, they ran 56 shows through the end of the year. And like TJP, like most like of the other Joshis, well, I mean Stardom runs a lot, but Stardom has a deep roster. But like TJPW only ran like 65 shows last year. So I think they don't have like a great undercard. And Sari isn't even like a contracted wrestler. She's a freelancer.
Yeah, the freelancer.
And I also think like they just overexposed their product too quick, and they like I think that's fine in some instances, but when you have a lot of really young talent on the bottom and in the mid card, like that's good for their development, but I think you burn the fans out with mediocre shows real quick.
Yeah.
But I think they might get it together. I think he needs some injections of like better talent, I think, and it might course correct. I also think though his booking, he's like just straight up like cosplaying like early Stardom, which I think might turn some people off because they might, if they were like a fan of early Stardom, and this happened to be a couple shows, I'm like, this is just old Stardom. And like that might work for some people, but like for me, it's just kind of like just doing the same shit. And I think,
yeah, but it's with lesser talent, kind of.
And I think it hurts him that Stardom got better when he left.
Yeah, it kind of did. That's unfortunate for him. It's like, because if you have like if this mystique has been built around you that it's great because of you, and then he leaves and it actually even if it just stayed the same, if it stayed the same, then it's like, well, maybe it wasn't just you, but it kind of got better. So it's like, oh,
because his Rossiisms
were
kind of a problem, and I think
yeah.
I think he was making some poor choices with talent. Like I kind of thought the product wasn't great in 2023 before they fired him. Like I thought it was still decent, but I thought it was definitely starting to crack around the edges.
And the thing about Stardom is that, I mean, they have a deep roster, so that's easy, but they also have a lot of, it has like, essentially there's hope in the sense that a lot of the younger talent, or you see people like moving up, and you see like they can easily build towards the future. Like, I mean, she turned heel and she won the title, which I think was the right call, but Saya Kamatani like just won the title, and she's got an interesting character. She's a good worker. So that's compelling, at least. Starlight Kid just won like the secondary title, and she's someone who, she's young. She's probably like 22, 23.
Who he like, wasn't pulling the trigger on. He like that was the other problem.
He wasn't, and she's someone who, again, she's young. They're building towards it, but I can absolutely see her holding the main title and being. She's a star, but she could be an even bigger star in the future. So you can see where they can go with her.
Because like,
and they have other people on the roster that they like. AZ, like, haven't done anything with Azumi.
Yeah. And like that's the problem I had.
They have. I mean, they have, but I mean, they could absolutely build her up to that next level too.
But like, Starlight Kid is a legit draw. Like like the Wave YouTube put up a match she wrestled in Wave like last year, and it did like some astronomically higher number than like their other stuff does. And they put in like that promo she did like in that angle where she got unmasked a couple of months ago on the Stardom thing, and it did like 2 million views. And he was just wasting her. Like, she was just not progressing. Same with Azumi, and he's gone. Now they're pushing them up the card.
Yeah. Shad's probably like, his eyes are like glazing over. He's not as familiar with Joshi. I know he did he did see like the match we reviewed Starlight Kid versus Azumi. But Starlight Kid is like the total package, really. She has a lot of charisma. She's a really good worker. She's kind of like a little bit Rey Mysterio-esque in that she can play like plucky underdog, but also like the mask also helps her in that instantly gets you over. Like, you can merchandise the hell out of that thing if you wanted to.
I liked her heel
she
gimmick.
Uses a torture rack. Is that what I'm hearing?
She does a weird like anaconda vice kind of thing, but what I liked is when she was a heel too and she was unmasking people, she would like she would
wear them on a belt like trophies.
Yeah, she would like hold their mask like a trophy, which I thought was cool. So
yeah, she's going to be a big star, and she's the other thing. Not that it matters, but it's like she's obviously a very pretty girl. So it's like if you have her unmasked her, which I don't think she should, because I actually like the whole. I like the mystique of it, and I think that's incredibly marketable. But you could easily like market her if she did decide to unmask. But even if she didn't, she's one of those masked wrestlers that it's a credit to them that they can emote so much and they have such charisma. Even like you can't see their face, you can just see their eyes at best, or their mouth maybe. That they can get everything over that way. That's a real skill. Like, wear a mask that covers most of your face, but still like emote and show everything, all the emotions you go through so much. Like, that's actually beyond just like wrestling. That's like almost like an act.
Fusion Liger, the fact that you can see his hair, and his mouth. You can barely see any of his body, and he's so emotive, like, is insane.
Yeah.
Because he has so much like personality to him and stuff, and like you invest in him pretty quick, and it's just like you can't see any of his body.
No.
But the Stardom talk does have is applicable here, because my promotion of the year, which is our first award of the night, is Stardom, which I gave it to them in 2022. I thought of anything I watched this year. In-ring was good. I thought the consistency of the booking was good. The shows were fun. I thought it was a solid outing for them. And I think of every promotion from top to bottom, they were the best this year.
This was tough because, not because like, oh, everyone's been doing so great, so it's tough to pick. My attitude was kind of like, a lot of companies are not doing that great. So who's like the best of
the worst?
The worst in a sense, yeah.
I would legitimately give Stardom. I would say Stardom had a good year, not a great year by what the standards they set in like the late teens and early 20s. But like, if like I said, like if I gave a grade, I would say AEW was like a 6.5 last year, and Stardom I would say would be like an 8. But the problem is with an 8 when you're Stardom is 9 to 9.5 was their standard for like 5 or 6 years.
So I actually would say Stardom too, and I think they were not perfect. There was some. Micah was Micah.
Yeah,
I'm
Micah.
always bad pronouncing names, so if I do that incorrectly, it's not out of.
You just gotta listen to the ring announcer because they.
Yeah, I'm bad at pronouncing names and like completely English names I can botch. So a foreign name.
Japanese names are usually not bad. They don't have anything. They don't have anything weird like Brazilian names where an R is pronounced like a H and stuff. But they're pretty much if you try to pronounce them phonetically, you're usually right.
Yeah. That's where like I will be like a thump my chest American. It's Royce. It's like, no, it's not. You're Royce Gracie. You're Royce Gracie.
They will literally choke you out just to...
I don't care. I don't care. I will go out with a smile on my face saying Royce. Like that's what that's
Portuguese and R at the beginning of the word is an H because it's Horian.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch, and I only watched enough of one promotion to have an opinion on, to feel like I had a comfortable enough opinion on, so I kind of abstain on this one.
I would put AEW as my runner-up. To finish my thought on Stardom, like Micah was the champion. I actually think she did fine, but she wasn't necessarily spectacular in my opinion.
She was a good stable hand for the turmoil, though.
She was a stable hand. So she like kind of like an AEW Samoa Joe. Like she almost like, let's right the ship. Let's and then they had her lose to, was it Raka for like a month, which is really just like to transition it onto Tam Nakano, which I'm not as big of a Tam Nakano fan as other people, like other Brad Ryder. But I think Stardom did a fantastic job this year overall, considering especially that Rossi was fired and there was turmoil where it's like, is it going to be like a late, like 99, All Japan, everyone leaves to form Noah situation with everyone leaving to form Marigold, and then like 3 people left, and it's like, oh well, okay, Stardom's gonna be fine.
And one of them didn't even stay very long.
So they did really well considering, and they did have pretty good quality work, and it did kind of get better after Rossi left. So I feel they deserve it. Now AEW, I think improved a lot from 2023. You know, that he was champion, and then of course we had the really good Swerve championship, and then they had Danielson winning it. I think that if you're on social media, you see it. There are people who, especially AEW fans, who are to the point of being ridiculously hating the Jon Moxley reign and the whole Death Riders angles. And there are some criticisms that I think are fair. And they're not very complimentary. Hold on, let me finish. They're not very complimentary of AEW because I do feel there are some narrative and storyline problems with this. But I don't think the storyline's working for very like valid reasons. But overall, I think AEW did improve a lot. I think that they made the right choices, but overall, there were not just like the Death Rider storyline, but overall there have been inconsistencies with the booking that have bothered me, and I think do detract from the product. I think that overall, like, it's a vast improvement for 2023, and people who don't think that it is are kidding themselves. But
I know 2023.
There was too much inconsistency for me to be like, it's the company of the year. Like, I think Stardom did better.
Like the second half of 2022, I thought sucked, and 2023 I thought wasn't good, but it was better, and I thought this year was better. But what are you gonna say, Chad?
There are some things that, like, do we want to gripe about some stuff about AEW right now? Sure.
Sure.
Since coming back, and I'm full disclosure, I'm doing this because this is one of my special little guys. Since he showed up back on TV, we have not had, like, hardly any, if any, I can't remember exactly, on TV promos from Hangman Page. Right? Like, we had the one where, Light My Fire promo. But beyond that, not much, right? You just brought this guy back. You should be doing more like that. There are people who are not getting exposure, or they're not getting time the way they should have. There should be more going on with, if you're going to put belts on people, you should probably do more with it. And just tell MJF he can have every other week or something like that. But then on the other hand, good things that happened this year. We had, Sting's retirement run. We had the, we had Swerve's world title run. We had
Joe and Hook was pretty.
Yeah, good. Joe's title run. It was a transitional run, but you know what? That's fine. It was a good transitional run.
He did a fantastic job. There are few people, I would say, in the modern era or the last like 2-3 decades who have had a better transitional run. It wasn't transitional run. It's like clearly transitional, guy. We knew it was transitional, or we suspected it was, and he still came out looking great and like a monster.
I think,
and it was a reset after the MJF stuff.
I thought Jeff Jarrett's run this year was pretty good. He's not for me, but I thought Will Ospreay had a pretty good year. I thought he was a good shot in the arm for the promotion. I will say, I'm really out on the Death Riders thing, and I'm kind of getting into that MJF thing with it, where I just kind of like this last pay-per-view. I was just like, just give it to Orange, give it to Orange, give it to. Oh God damn it! Like, it's nothing like I don't even dislike Moxley. It's just like, it's.
There's something in it that stalled out because this was started. My personal theory is that this was started too early. Like, they thought Danielson's run was going to go a little bit longer, and he got to the point where he couldn't, so they had to start it earlier, and so they're stretching it.
Like, people bitched about Moxley beating Danielson for the title. I still would have done that because that was the proper closure to their story, which was a couple years long, was Moxley ending him for the title. The problem is, it's just, I feel like I've seen it before with Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I'm just kind of ready for something
new. So, I'm ready for this to progress. Like, I understand what you're doing. I understand where we are. I'm ready for it to progress. And for me, the end game on it is if I had, the saber for it, the end game would be that this is the breakthrough that crowns Darby. The thing I'm worried about with the Death Riders thing is after you finish this angle, then what do you do with them? Like, what happens with the folks that are in that after that? I don't know.
And I think the problem is I was really sick of the Blackpool Combat Club too, because I was tired of the big gimmick matches, and then they were just back doing the same stuff again, and the Death Riders just like, oh, you just brought Malibu Stacy back with a new hat, okay.
Well,
a criticism that I've seen, there have been a few criticisms. One that I think is legitimate. It's like it's almost, in a sense, almost kind of be like the NWO. It's like we're taking over the company, but it's like, oh, let's beat the shit out of Orange Cassidy, and then no one really comes out to help him except maybe the conglomerate guys, and they're out there being like, we hate like what AEW's become. We're gonna like destroy AEW, and then it's like the next segment, it's like, oh look, the Outrunners are fighting Top Flight. They're feuding, and it's like there's a lack of like urgency. If you really want to get that over as like these are like the main threat to they're a threat to they're an existential crisis to AEW's existence, then have everyone be like come on man, we got to get the Death Riders. Like they're like, and it's people are kind of disinterested in it, and to the extent that people were interested, they knocked it off. Like someone just posted this like in the last day or two. It's like you had a few weeks back this because they got beat up by them, but you had like Evil Uno and the Dark Order cut this like really intense promo. It's like, we're gonna get you Death Riders, and then people online were like, oh, they're like jobbers. Why are they like challenging the Death Riders? And it's like,
because they just got jumped.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, exactly. It's like you kind of right. They have been used like as secondary characters, but it fits the narrative. It's like, okay, even like these guys recognize a threat, so they've got jumped. They want to take it, and it's like people that just dropped, and that's kind of like the theme, like the part of like why I can't vote them as number. I think they got better. There's a lot of like inconsistencies with it, and that's one of these things where it's like storyline stop, and then it's like they cool for like 2-3 weeks, and they start again, and it's like it kills like the momentum and flow to me.
And I feel like
everywhere, but
I feel like the other problem with the Death Riders thing is coming off of the Buck stuff in the summer. Like, it's not the same angle, but it's kind of got like some of the same tendrils and tropes to it, and
Mhm.
there hits a point like it's a point like in WWE where it's just like, oh god, not another fucking like power struggle storyline, and
Yeah.
I kind of have that going on. I don't know. It's just the Death Riders have just not landed for me at all, and I'm just kind of like, I just want the next thing. I just want. I really kind of think they need to reorganize their like what they're doing with the roster a bit. Like I think they need to pull the trigger on some guys. I know Meltzer bitches about it all the time, but like maybe put the belt on Osprey or Orange Cassidy and like move on with like
You know,
something like
this
that.
moment right now, if you're going to do a hard shift and kill the Death Riders angle right now, then I say you either put it on Darby and give him the breakthrough, or you put it on Omega, because Kenny Omega's back and Omega is in like true to form.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but I was also like, I always said that, but I was like, well, like maybe you should put it on a young guy. But I kind of agree. I think I would have Omega win it and try to see what him as a face does for the ratings and stuff. Because I think there's an argument that Omega is like the top star, and that's why their ratings have struggled, is because he's been gone.
Omega draws eyes, like he draws people in.
There is an argument that I think has some validity to it. That, I mean, it's not just the name All Elite Wrestling, but it's like people have, since the very beginning, people are invested in the elite, meaning the Bucks, Omega. I would even include Cody because Cody left, but Paige, like those four people are invested in.
Mm-hmm.
So they should be like your focus. And there are obviously people who have stepped up or who they have signed that are fantastic, like Swerve or Ospreay, whatever. But you should include. But and people like John Moxley, like we can complain about the Death Rider storyline with good reasons, but he's the guy who like he's if he's not the person who has been a linchpin or the linchpin for AEW outside of the elite for the last 5 years, like it's a short list of people who aren't. Like he's been fantastic. So
yeah,
kudos to John Moxley. But
you could do a good job, and I think it like I feel bad about, but it's like, yeah, you've been good for like the first 5 years, but like I'm just not feeling the current thing. Like I think that happens with anyone.
I think Kenny Omega came back after a year being out with, I mean, he had a really serious injury. Like it could have been life threatening because he was like apparently hours away from developing sepsis, which can kill you easily. Like even if you're young.
Yeah, and this derailed Brock Lesnar's MMA career too. Just FYI.
Yeah, it's for people who don't know, like he had diverticulitis that they tried to address with just antibiotics, but it wasn't enough. He had a bowel resection, which means they had to cut part of his intestine out,
which
it's
Lesnar
serious,
had to have
surgery.
done too.
Yeah, the fact that, I mean, Lesnar can be a sex pest, but he is a physically gifted human being. Kenny Omega.
If you look at
the greatest of all time.
If you look at the final MMA fight that Lesnar had, where noted he cheated in that match with PEDs, but Overeem pretty much won by punching him right where his intestines no longer were properly together.
Well, I mean, even laparoscopic surgery, like you're gonna lose some of your core there because they have to.
You're losing muscle integrity.
It takes some of that like stuff takes a long time to like properly heal, like for you to be 100% again too.
But Kenny Omega came back, had a match with Gabriel Kidd at Wrestle Dynasty. I don't know what Meltzer gave a star rating for, but
5 billion stars.
The consensus around he I guess on the Observer he was like, oh, belt Omega up immediately. he obviously is very high on it, but Omega gave by all accounts, no one is like, oh, it was okay match. Everyone is like fantastic match, and it's like this adds to what we've discussed where Omega, or at least Brad and I, because I know Shad, you're not the biggest Omega fan, that you dislike him, but
here's the thing. when it came to the discussion, I thought at the last time we had this discussion on here, I thought best in the world active wrestler right now. I went with Danielson over Omega, but it was not a big gap.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I fully admit Omega is fantastic. Like, there was something I was watching the other day. I can't remember what it is, but it popped up on my feed or something. It was Omega doing, and just in watching it, I watched Omega. It was like a sequence of V triggers he did, and I watched him do that, and I'm like, he does that differently than I thought he did. I appreciate him even more now. Like, Omega, first of all, has historically proven that he draws ratings when he's on TV. His segments are higher. Omega is fantastic in the ring. There's no question about that anywhere. Like, the guy should be the guy. I just don't like the idea of cutting off a story right dead and not giving it. When you have the opportunity to do a breakthrough like they do, because Darby's been fighting the Death Riders with everything he's got in him, then pin him up against the wall, and if we're going to finish this off, let's do it right. And have Darby win. Like, here they are, Darby and Moxley are having the match, and then here come the Death Riders, and just empty the whole damn locker room on top of them. Like, here comes Yuta out of the back, and then all of a sudden, here's Cassidy and anybody affiliated with Best Friends just beating the living shit out of him. Here comes Claudio, and you've got, you have the entire, well, maybe not the, here comes Pac, and the entirety of Dark Order pals on top of him. Here comes Marina, and then, like, the women's roster comes out, and just, like, if you kill the Death Rider angle that way and give all of them a break and say, look, guys, you can take time off, you can go tour, whatever, and we'll bring you back in a little bit. Great. Do that. Get rid of this. I'm tired of the anytime contract that Christian Cage has. If he's going to do that. Make it a short transition before Omega's like, by the way, right here. And then Christian's like, he can't get out of it. Have Omega win it. There you go. Transition it that way. I just don't want to kill the story without any satisfying ending.
Chad, I agree. I think narratively, it's to me, it's obvious that it's kind of leading, or should lead, towards Darby being the one to dethrone Mox. And the next pay-per-view, I believe, is Revolution, which is, I think I calculated, it's like 9 weeks. It's in like the first week of March, like the first or second weekend of March. So it's in like 8-9 weeks.
Yeah.
I think narratively that's what it seems like they're building towards, and what would make sense. I will say, like, after Dynasty, Omega does fantastic performance. People like belt him up immediately, and part of that is the dissatisfaction with Moxley's reign and the Death Riders storyline. I kind of get it. There has been a lot of chatter recently, which I kind of am with, that you don't want to copy the WWE, so I'm not saying this, but people have been like, Omega should be treated like Roman Reigns, and by that,
I think Omega said that, didn't he?
Well, I don't know.
Treated like a big deal, not like I'm going to take 8
like,
years to get to the damn ring.
Yeah, he should. Well, yes, but I mean, he should be treated like the star of the promotion.
As in, he goes right back to the top of the ladder, and when he's going, like, then the promotion suddenly centers around him again.
They push him as like the main deal. Not if you don't have him on TV every week, you at least, like, he should be on the pay-per-views. He should rarely, if never, lose. Put the title on him, maybe, whatever. He should be treated like the main deal. I think they should, for the reasons we talked about, where, like, he moves ratings, he's very popular, people love him, the fan base. That's part of why AEW's even started, is based upon his star power. But the logical reason is, like, he's what, 39, I think, 40, or will be turning 40 if this year, if he's not already 40. Of the last 2 years, 3 years, he's been gone 2 of the 3 years.
Yep.
Due to injury or illness.
And he was working a really limited schedule the 1 year he was available, and he still had 2 match of the year candidates that year.
Now, he is, I think, the guy was off for a year, came back, and it wasn't even just like, oh, he's got a little bit of ring rust. Puts on, I haven't seen the match, and you can obviously you can probably discount Meltzer's rating because he overrates things now. But I would be, based upon the consensus I've seen people talk about the match, I'd be shocked if it's less than like, I know it's subjective and we don't do star ratings, whatever, but I mean, I doubt it's less than like a 4-star match.
It'll get
so for a
6
guy
stars.
to come back after a year and have a great match right at the gate, no ring rust, he's
a
greatest
freak
of all time.
Yeah, like
he's one of those freaks of nature that. So, given that he's getting older, he's had all these injuries. Who knows how he's going to be at a certain level? How long he can have that in his tank? Why not? Why not push him as
use him while you got him? And he's a big deal. Do it.
And I want to add, it's something we bitch about all the time, and wrestling's really bad about. Is I know what Shad's saying about like you don't want to mess with the narrative, but there's also the wrestling is really bad about striking while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
AEW has been better about it than a lot of other places have been. But narratively, just if you're going to do it, tie a bow on it at Revolution and move on to some other stuff. What were you going to say, Matt? I'm sorry.
Shad.
Yes.
We don't like the fantasy book here. I'm not trying to do that, but it just got me thinking when you're talking about Darby. You have to do Christian. Who's a heel right now? You could argue he shouldn't be, but who's a heel right now? Hangman Page. You could easily have Darby win at Revolution in March. Hold the belt, because Darby, I love him. Like he has moved so far up. At any given point in my people have special guys. They're special little guys. I never thought about that before, but in my wrestling fandom, there's lots of guys that I may like, whatever. But generally speaking, there's like 1 or 2 guys at any given point that it's like, this guy moves me. Like his matches like make me feel, not you never feel anything for wrestling. You wouldn't be a wrestling fan if you didn't get something out of it. But there are certain guys, you're very special guys, and it's like, I'm gonna watch everything they do because what they do like moves me. Their matches, like something about their matches like elevate me, and it's easy for a guy like Omega, and Omega's been one of those guys for me. It's like Omega's next like elite level, one of the greatest of all time.
I've seen him have so many matches with guys that aren't great and just elevate them, like not even like a level, but like he elevates guys to his level. And we've talked about his offense, and I think people really misunderstand how he works, because I think Shad's come around to my way of thinking on him about how his individual moves are really simplistic and not complicated, but his strength is his offense is so flexible. It's kind of like Ric Flair. Like Ric Flair's offense, when you really break Ric Flair down, it's like, oh, this is why Ric Flair is so awesome, because his offense can incorporate anyone into it, and it can work in any structure and any like routine and still work. And that's what Kenny Omega is. He can string his offense together in any which way possible and work with anyone. And that's what makes him so great. But speaking of great wrestlers, so 2024, who is our male wrestler of the year?
Go. Can I finish with that real quick?
Finish that real quick.
Five fantasy booking, sorry. You don't need Darby to be like a long-term champion, at least in his first reign. You could have Darby hold the title until All Out. Sorry, not All Out. Double or Nothing in May, and have him lose to a heel Hangman Page. And you could do, if you're going to do building towards Omega Okada, you could do Omega Okada at Double or Nothing. When is All In 2025? It's in July in Arlington, Texas. So you could have, Cowboy heel Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega for the title. You could run back Page Omega. In July, boom, you could have Omega win the title. Then there you go with the Omega Super Push. But anyway, that's fantasy booking. We don't like the fantasy book, but it's so like, you don't have to today in January give Omega the title. You could build towards it for 5 months and still have like the Darby, a resolution of the Darby storyline.
Yeah. Male wrestler of the year, as Brad was saying, for me, even though Hangman's one of my special guys, the answer is going to be Swerve. the guy just had an incredible breakthrough year, a good run as champ. Like the guy deserves the flowers he's getting. So I give it to Swerve.
Yeah, I think he's had a great year. He'll come up later in our awards. So for me,
Yeah.
It's Bryan Danielson. Just an amazing year. So many good matches with so many people. Um, the you know one of the rare times I got super invested in just seeing him every time out. Like really just like a string of great matches. Like it's even hard to like talk about. Like you have the Zack Sabre Jr. match. You have the Hechicero match. Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland,
Nigel.
There's another one right on the top of my head that I can't think of. There was a oh crap.
He fought didn't he fight Okada this year too?
Yeah, he did fight Okada. There was someone in AEW fought that was like a stupidly good match too.
He had the match against Blue Panther.
Yeah.
That was in CMLL.
Did he wrestle Darby this year?
I'm sure, but I can't remember it.
Let me check. Well, this was a throwaway. This was on Collision, but he faced Yuji Nagata. That was good. I didn't like that as much as the Hechicero match, which was amazing.
The Hechicero match was stupidly good.
Zack Sabre Jr., Jun Akiyama.
Yeah.
He had so this is from Collision. I'm looking at his cage match. This was one of those, and I've talked about how like it's unfortunate that we haven't seen him as much, but he had a really good match in March with Shane Taylor. Taylor also had a good match not that long. Well, in the last like year or so with Moxley.
Yeah.
Shibata, he had a match with. Let's see, Blue Panther. He had one with Lance Archer. I'm not sure if that's the one you're thinking of. But...
No, I don't remember that one at all.
Oh, at Forbidden Door, he had the one with Shingo Takagi.
Oh yeah, that was what I was thinking of. That was really good.
He had an Owen Hart match with Pac.
Oh, the Jeff Jarrett match. That's what I was thinking of. His match with Jeff Jarrett. That's the one I was thinking about. People
have been bitching in the last week or so that Jeff Jarrett, announced he's going to like challenge Moxley, and Jeff Jarrett got like 10 minutes of promo time. And look, I get the criticism. It's like you should be focused on the younger guys, whatever. But it's like, people just stop acting like Jeff Jarrett is dog shit. Like Jeff Jarrett was always good. Let's be realistic. Jarrett, we've been going through USWA in 1992. Jeff Jarrett was pretty much always good.
He had the misfortune of being the champion while WCW was complete and utter dog water.
I showed. We didn't do this on the show, but this is years ago now, for people watching. But there was a point, I think I found his like third match ever, and I showed it to Shad, and Shad literally got pissed off about how good he was.
Yeah.
Because like Shad was like, his timing was good, like everything was good, and Shad's like, this is really his third match. I'm like, yeah, this is his third match.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm gonna pick Danielson too, but Swerve is like 1 inch behind him. And it's almost unfair because I think Danielson, because he said right at the gate, this is my last year of like intentionally like full time active competition.
Mm-hmm.
He still wants to come back and have he wants to come back and have wrestling matches.
I don't think
he should not. Like I love Danielson. He shouldn't have done this run when his brain he got cleared, but like he should not wrestle anymore. Like I'm sorry, Danielson, I love you, but stop, please.
Given that his characterization was he felt like a bobblehead walking around, dude. Yeah, just go out. You rode into the sunset perfectly.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
I love Danielson. I've loved him for a long time. So as a Uber fan, while I do want him to be healthy, if he gets healthy to the point where it's like I can come back and wrestle like 4 matches a year, I'd be like,
no,
wrestle the matches. But it's almost unfair because this was like his last year, so he was able to choose some opponents, and he had some of the best matches, arguably the best matches of anyone through the year. It's easy to do when you're a talent of the level of Danielson, and you can pick some of the best workers on the planet or from the last like 20, 30 years. You know, some of the best workers on the planet right now, you could be like, I want to wrestle Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr., you know, or guys who have been fantastic for years. Like, I'm going to do Blue Panther. I want to wrestle Hechicero, or I want to wrestle, you know, Jeff Jarrett. Like, it's easy to do. So it's kind of unfair, but tremendous like last run for Danielson. So he's like my number one. But Swerve is right underneath him. And Swerve, you'd have the argument that Swerve really should deserve it. So I don't think you're wrong, Shad.
No.
Because Swerve had fantastic matches, but beyond that, the thing that he made himself a star.
Mm-hmm.
And it's his talent, it's his promo ability, it's his charisma, it is his in-ring ability, his versatility. He made himself a star, and he has made himself indispensable. And I say that even with the angle they just did, where Ricochet brutally attacked him because, you know, Swerve has been mocking him, etc. He made Ricochet, who they're trying to obviously rehab him into like a new character, he made him look like $1 million. And people should take a lesson with Swerve, because Swerve, how did Swerve get to where he is? It's the old, like, Sting talked about this. It's like, oh yeah, it's the scissors. Sting talked about this. It's like, you can lose, it's how you lose.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's an old school concept, but it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like, you can eat shit and lose, but how do you do it? Like, if it gets you and your opponent over, who gives a shit if you lose?
Yeah.
Like, it will make everything better. If you have Ricochet come out there and murder you, that's okay, because it makes him look good. And if you come back from that, which he will, then it makes you like a badass. It's like, look at the brutality you took, but you came back like fighting stronger than ever.
And he completely saved Ricochet. Like, going into that, like, there were a lot of people, and I was one of them, saying like, man, like, that was a bad signing. Like, Ricochet's kind of washed and isn't justifying like the stuff he said. Completely saved him on that. And I want to say the other thing I like about the Swerve run, and why I think it's nice to see that he got out of WWE, is he's getting to, like, he is getting to, let me see how to say this. He is getting to embrace being a black man at the top, where you've not been allowed to do that in other companies, even in WWE. Like, he is getting to be like, he gets to do what he wants with it. Like, it's got, you know, he's got his flair to it. Like, he gets to be him. It's kind of like,
it is. But right after, I think it was basically was the All In, whenever I think All In, or right at All Out, when he announced like he signed a long-term contract, that was the point when I was impressed by him. I was really feeling it. I was a fan. But at that moment, he's like giving interviews. He's like making appearances on like media shows and everything. And that's when it all clicked to me. It's like, oh my God, like, this guy has the total package, where he
found his voice. Like, he found his voice like right around then too.
But who are the people that it's like you could push as your ace? And there are many things that goes into ace, but one of the things to me, like, I think is you can be an ace, is like, can you be like, hey, Swerve, can you go on Good Morning America and promote like this pay-per-view or this generally our company? Sure. And he goes, and you can go on there and you can be charismatic, you can be funny, you can be interesting, and it's like, you're obviously like athletic dude who you're doing a very like really niche but entertaining and compelling form of like kind of like, well, sports entertainment, but, you know, like competitive fake sport, but you come off as like a really entertaining fun dude, where a normal person could be like, oh damn, that's a pro wrestler. Like I want to like maybe I'll watch that because like this guy's interesting. He's funny. He's cool. You can when you have that level of like charisma and appeal, like you can be something, and that's when it all clicked to me. It's like, oh damn, this guy is that guy. And then on the flip side, you look at his actual wrestling, and he gets it. He's not just a good worker; he gets all the aspects of it too. Where like the Ricochet is a perfect example. It's like, hey, I know what I need to do. I need to go out there and get murdered to make this guy look good, and he did it, and it came off amazingly.
Mm-hmm.
And a lesser talent could do it, but not make it as look good as he did. Like he is just
Swerve is willing to show his ass in order to do that sort of stuff.
And to me, he showed himself to be the total package. And it wasn't like I doubted him, like, oh, I didn't know this about him. It's like I knew I was super impressed by him.
Mm-hmm.
But what I finally saw this past year was like, oh no, I knew you were great, great worker, but you're more than just a great worker. You could be like the ace of the company if you wanted to be. And Tony signing him to a long-term contract, it's like, this is brilliant. This is a guy like you can count on for the next however many years to be the guy or one of your main guys.
AEW's, yeah, they're really fortunate because they have two of those guys. Oddly enough, they feuded with each other. They got Swerve and they got Hangman. And they can both do. They can both be. You can have two aces in the company, as bonkers as that might be. So, Brad, what was our next category?
This is female wrestler of the year. I will go first on this one. So, I picked Sari. We did the one tag she did this year, and there was a commenter that was very kind after the show. Left a string of matches to watch of hers this year, and I checked quite a number of them out, and she was just phenomenal this year. A lot of good matches. She's really upped her game. Like, when someone kind of finally plucks that star power, kind of like Swerve did. Like, I feel like she really took that step forward. I think she's a legit star. The tag we watched, I loved, and I thought she was great in that. So, just a phenomenal year for her, and she would be my blow-away worker of the year.
I would also pick Sari, but if you haven't seen that, because she's obviously like a Joshi worker, so if you don't have the opportunity to see like some of that stuff, but some of the stuff is on like YouTube.
The tag we did is on her YouTube, because that was like was like a one shot that was like her show.
Yeah, I mean sometimes wrestlers do that. It's like Sari produce.
Yeah, like with Joshi,
they're independently booked, like independent show.
Yeah, like you see it in Joshi, but you do it in everyone. It might be like, oh, it's Sari's birthday party, and it's a bunch of matches. Like you see stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, I would for her, because she was just phenomenal. Like she is like best in the world, certainly for female talent, but just about any wrestler. Like she's elite tier.
Yeah,
and
she really, a lot of people. She really took a step up, and she did an interview recently, and I think this actually helped her as much as I dog on NXT. She actually gave WWE a lot of credit for helping her learn how to take good care of her body and like her diet and stuff like that, which I think they helped her in that regard to take that next step. So I will give the PC some credit for it.
So,
but if you haven't seen her work in Japan, which is difficult to do sometimes, like you wouldn't necessarily get that. So I kind of like did like a 1B, and it would probably, in my opinion, and this might be controversial because some people will like hate the stuff she's done, but I I personally feel like Mercedes Moné ranks up there too. You make it face like. Her matches, really, really great matches.
Her matches were really good, but like the stuff outside of her matches has not landed well this year for me at all. Like I thought she really started off well in AEW, but I think where they made a mistake with her, and it's not necessarily her fault. And they should never have done this because it doesn't work in AEW. Not having her wrestle for like the first month or two was a massive, massive error on their part, and I think it's hampered her from the word go.
I think, so I would kind of agree. I think that the reason why is I think they won't say it. They didn't say it at the time. I think it's because she wasn't cleared.
But they wanted to get her on TV.
Yes, which. The argument, the criticism would be like, well, then just don't show her on TV until she's clear. Like, wait a month. But I kind of get it. I would disagree with Brad in the sense that like I don't think it started great and then was wonky. I think it started off rocky and then I felt it got better because I think she kind of found her groove.
Her matches are good, but I think like I don't think she's not been the game changer I think she should have been for them.
So that's going to lead. Oh, go ahead,
sorry.
Matt.
Sorry, Shad. I guess my expectations were like I wasn't necessarily expecting her to be a game changer. So with that, I feel like she started off like rocky, and then she found her groove, and then I think she has improved a lot. And I think she's a great addition to the AEW roster. But I am a fan of Mercedes. We're gonna say Shad. Like
Shad's gonna make his pick, and I tend to agree with his pick over that pick. So
what I was gonna say is because again, I'm not a Joshi person, but from everything I watched this year, I'm giving Female Wrestler of the Year to Toni Storm because Toni took a gimmick that, and yes, some of it was 2023 as well. I know that, but from January through June, Toni was rocking this gimmick that by all rights shouldn't work. And it really has. And then here in December, she showed back up doing something different that also really works. Like, and straight up made the current women's champion, straight up made Mariah May on TV. So, I think Mercedes is finally hitting her groove, but for the year, I'm giving it to Toni Storm.
I think that's a solid pick. I think she was a really good anchor for AEW. Like I think there's a lot of people that hate on her gimmick, but I also think like she made the women's division feel important. And I think that's something they've struggled with at times. And I think she finally like was the thing that broke them through a bit with their women's division. So yeah. I think that's a good pick from a lot of angles. So now, since we're on wrestlers, we're going to go to Tag Team of the Year, which I really struggled with this one because this was not a great year for tag team wrestling.
I struggled a lot with this.
And FTR was injured for most of the year, which they've been like the easy pick for like a couple years.
So you know what? Again, this is another gimmick that shouldn't work thing, and I'm just picking them because of how much of a kick I get out of them. But I'm giving it to the Outrunners because these guys have taken an 80s throwback gimmick, which you'd be like, oh God, and made it work so well, and they are over like
the photoshops of them in like important like in like movies and stuff just cracks me up.
Just here recently, they did a promo spot where the Rock and Roll Express were on Collision, and they rolled up to the Rock and Roll saying, "You all screwed us out of gas money. You need to pay up." And FTR was like, "Weren't you too young for that?" Because they're the young.
Hey, on Twitter, the Outrunners did a bit because someone like commented. This is like a few weeks or months back, even at this point, but they were like some person commented on their Twitter. I think it was maybe Truth Magnet, but they commented on to them saying like, "Oh, like I love seeing like the Rock and Roll versus the Outrunners at like Greensboro Coliseum in 1986." And like one of the Outrunners commented, "It's like, yeah, we showed those rookies a good time." It's like
if you want a great example of how good they are at running that bit, because that's really the big, like, how they run the bit is go watch the Hate EW they did with RJ City, and they are fantastic. And then you get them out in the ring, and they, the you son of a bitch elbow and all that sort of stuff. Like, these guys have found a way to take a gimmick that at first pitch is lame as hell, own it, and get over like crazy. And no, they haven't sniffed tag belts really, but it doesn't matter to me.
I said like a couple years back or something when they were just doing like Dark, back when Dark existed and stuff. I'm like, these guys are gonna get over to the point where like they're gonna have to get like a contract because they're like, they're having, people are having too much fun with them.
When they won me over is when they wrestled my brain's stuck, the Acclaimed, and they were mocking them, and they did the scissor thing, and they started like freaking out, like banging their heads back and forth. Even like the Acclaimed were cracking up.
Yeah. Well, and just the other things they do, because they're like, when we get in the ring, we put our arms out because we're big meaty men, and we do a meat spin, and I'm just like, oh my god.
That really gives me horrible flashbacks to because there was someone. It happened on Reddit.
Yeah, someone Google that, folks.
Someone put that. Someone did a random link and people were clicking. It's like, what the fuck is that? Like, oh, you weren't around in the late 2000s where you don't click random things.
Yeah, for those of us, for people who may not be aware, it's like, do not Google meat spin. Like, is
it still around?
I haven't checked.
I'm not gonna check.
Is that I don't. It's been a while. Like is it a Rickroll too? Like, is that what's playing? Like, is the music?
No, that's not what's playing.
Oh, is it Sledgehammer?
It's you spin me.
Okay.
I forget the name of the band who did that, but the 80s song. But
they were talking about it on EFAP randomly during like one of their shows, and like some of the younger ones didn't know what it was, and then they got them to look at one of those other ones, and I'm just like, God, like the youngsters don't know what you used to do to each.
No.
There was the other one that people used to pull, like Tub Girl. That was the other horrible one.
Oh.
I don't. Yeah. Let's just. Anyway, other tag team of the year picks.
Well, hold on, Chad. I love the Outrunners too. They're not my pick of the year. Tag team of the year. They are fun. They have they've skyrocketed up where they are like for the last like 2-3 months, consistently been in like the top 10 of like AEW merchandise sellers.
Yeah, because they're
fun.
They have the rare good gear from like AEW currently that like people would actually like wear out.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's not distracting for them. I think it just helps them sell better because they're kind of over. And if you're looking at a bunch of wrestling shirts, it's like, yeah, I'll take that because that's the only one that I wouldn't be embarrassed to wear.
I have seen some people on social media rag on them, and they take the attitude, it's like, no, AEW is serious graphs only. Like, and it's like, yes, like AEW, the concept behind them, the way they differentiate themselves from like the WWE should be one of the things they differentiate. Should be like, we have the best wrestling. That's almost like their tagline, like the best wrestler is here. Like, that's fine, but you also need to realize, people act like comedy and wrestling
is like
this like shameful thing that only occasionally happens. It's like, you have you not paid attention to wrestling? Like, comedy and wrestling has been around for decades upon decades.
World of Sport, the most like sport-based, stodgiest like promotion in the 60s and 70s had fucking Catweasel as like a guy that wrestled there. Like, so I'm sure AEW can have like a couple of comedy gimmicks.
If you don't,
I don't think Outrunners are bad in the ring, but it's like, and let's say you put the world titles on them. I don't think it'd be like, let's have a 18-month run with the Outrunners. Like, no one's saying that either. But I mean, come on, they're fun. They get the crowd invested.
And
it's cool. Sell merch. Like, why wouldn't you?
I know when I've gone to shows, and I mean, they don't do like super long shows, but like when I've gone to like a show and it's like 4 or 5 hours, by like hour 3, give me something that is not super serious wrestling. Like, please,
Yeah.
like for the love of God,
Break
like
it up.
even like I went to one and they brought out Plunder in like hour 3, and I was pretty bored. Like, ooh, there's Plunder. Like, okay,
Yeah.
like let's go.
You got a bicycle. You got a bicycle, Tony.
Yeah, but I think, God, how did we have? I can't remember what show it was. There was someone they had bicycles set up by the entrance, and I was just like, "Oh, please tell me someone's going to use a bicycle," and they never did.
There was
Wasted
Queendom a
opportunity.
couple of years ago where I think Julia ran someone over in a bicycle.
So,
Well, Hyper Masao and Tokyo Joshi Bro like constantly does wacky shit. Like, let me hit my opponent as I'm riding a bicycle. Like,
Well, I mean, Hyper Misao does have a super bike though.
that's true.
so if I was going to be, there was a stigma for a long time where people would say, "Well, in wrestling, funny don't draw money." It's like bull pucky. Like, don't give me that. People like to laugh. They like to enjoy stuff. So if I had bucked that attitude when I was wrestling, I probably would have been doing a lot more stuff.
You probably
But
would have also like just to throw it out there. You probably would have wrestled a different style and maybe lasted a lot longer.
yeah, instead of trying to be super serious badass, it's just like there's a million of those. Find a way, find something people enjoy, and do that. So Matt, who your tag team of the year? I'm sorry, I didn't. Did you say it? I didn't.
No,
I didn't.
We were on the Outrunners.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I feel it was a bad year. I had this whole talk earlier about how I didn't like how they were half-assing it, but I probably would pick the Young Bucks because I feel like they even half-assed, they still had overall good matches.
They frustrated me so much with the absences.
They did frustrate me, and I think that it wasn't a great year for tag team wrestling. But so it's almost like they were the best of the worst. Like, but that's not to be disparaging because I did enjoy the Outrunners, stuff like that. But
so, and the other thing I have to give the Bucks credit for is that they were smart and did the right thing in making Private Party. Because if Private Party had just won at the pay-per-view, then it would have been like, But what they did is by doing that and then bringing it back one more time and increasing the stakes, it made it a bigger moment.
I also like that they.
I like that.
I like that they.
Like that, Chad.
I like that they full circled from early Dynamite too, and lost it to the team that they originally lost it to. Like they lost their first match in AEW too.
That said, one of the things that frustrates me with AEW booking is that Private Party won the titles, and then it's like, where's Private Party been?
Yeah. They're MIA.
It's like, and it's like, no, like
it kind of
made them like now have, and it's not as if there is now 0 tag teams to feud with. Like, okay, even if you're gonna be like FTR is gonna get involved feuding with the Death Riders, it's like, okay, like you have the Outrunners,
the Bang Bang Gang.
I'm
waiting on them to come back.
The Guns have, I guess one of the Guns is injured, so they're not going to be back until both are they're both healthy to do it. But yeah, the Outrunners, you have Top Flight, you have Leo Rush and Action Andretti, you have the House of Black, like Malachi
you
and Buddy.
You could even throw. I mean, they don't tag, but I mean
Dark Order. Like you have
throw Brian Keith and
half a dozen.
Brian Keith and Big Bill together. I mean, because Big Bill is a former champion, so they don't tag regularly. But hey,
that's
an interesting dynamic with such a big guy, and then you're elevating Brian Keith a bit in that situation too.
You have the tag team with Brian Cage and Lance Archer, who are being kind of built up as monsters. Like you have guys you could have stuff with for Private Party, and they are not really doing it. So
yeah, that's been a problem. So I thought it was a bad year for it was a bad year for tag team. I thought about the Bucks, but I really they aggravated me with their usage. So I went with Mayu Yamashita and Maki Ito.
That's a pretty good one. That's actually, yeah. in Tokyo Joshi Pro.
Yeah, they had a pretty good. They're champions right now. They've had a pretty good reign. Maki Ito continues to improve a lot. Mayu Yamashita, I think you can argue, is a top 5 Joshi performer and one of the biggest stars, just star power wise, watching her. And I mean, Shad, I've shown Shad stuff because she's the one, Shad, that I showed you doing all the head kicks and stuff. That you commented that you, when we were talking about Xia Li knocking.
Yeah.
And you commented that she did a good job with her kicks, but like that's who the other one is.
Okay. So going into 2025, just as an aside, I don't know where she goes from here because she's done everything she really needs to do in Tokyo Joshi Pro. So it's like, what are you going to do with your career? Are you going to go sign somewhere in America? Or do you go somewhere else in Japan, like Stardom, where you go freelance? Like, I don't know. Man, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she doesn't necessarily
should sign with
Ring of Honor aspirations.
I think she should sign with Ring of Honor. I think she would have a chance to get over here.
I think she could, but I mean, you also are. It's easy for us as Americans to be like, "Oh, I'd love for this Joshi worker to come here in America," but
you have to want to live here.
You have to want to live here, and there's some Japanese workers that it's like they would have no interest in work. Even you could be massively over, but you would have doing like this long term, like they'd have to want to do it, and a lot of them probably don't want to do it. Like,
yeah, because I mean, like, it's easy for us as Americans to say like, oh yeah, they'd want to come work here, but like, if it's like, oh hey, there's this great job, do you want to go work in Japan? Like, well, I don't know, maybe, but like, I can see that, like, cause yeah, like, people talk about the money and stuff, but like, yeah, like, I don't know. It might be nice America to like. It might be nice to work at Kirk and Hall 3 nights a week and just be able to walk home.
Yeah, but like the Japanese and America, like it's two very different cultures. Like there is some cross-cultural stuff, but it's very different cultures. So if you are born and raised in Japan, you may not necessarily want to be like, I want to go to America. Even like AEW, Ring of Honor, where it's like you would probably have a much lighter schedule. Like you don't necessarily want to go and do that like long term.
And there's like the cultural thing though, like so let's say you're Mayu and you've been in Japan your whole life. Do you want to go and have that lighter schedule, but do you want to be around a bunch of Americans speaking English that you may or you like your proficiency, I don't know what her proficiency is, but you might not be comfortable with, like they, you know, their culture's different, so there's like things you're gonna have to probably spend like a while getting used to. Cause like it's not like, you know, like someone like Shinsuke Nakamura makes sense. He wants to surf here. I think like it seems like his like bag. Like same with Mina Shirakawa. Like it just seems like, you know, that's her thing too. But like
Mina'd have a good fit.
Mina, I mean, I don't know. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but the fact that she's appeared more and more with on AEW television.
Oh, she's gonna sign full time.
Or even just facing AEW talent. Like she just had a match with Mercedes at Wrestle Dynasty. Like I would not be surprised if she does sign a contract with AEW. And she, for those, I mean, Mina has improved a lot as a worker. Obviously, because it's unfortunate. We talked about Adam Cole body shaming, but I mean, wrestling is very visual industry. Mina Shirakawa is obviously a very attractive woman, and not to age shame, but Mina is also like 36, 37. So it's like, if you want to sign a contract and get money, you know, while you can still perform at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this with Kenny Omega early. It's like, as you get older, your body ages. So if you want to perform at a certain level, at elite level, like you need to do what you can when you can.
Yeah. Well, and I think
so. It would not surprise me if she signs with AEW because it's like you're getting older. So if you want to perform at a certain level, you should go ahead and sign that contract and get the money that you can because you're gonna be able to do this past like a certain time.
I also think for her though, coming to America past wrestling, like she's gorgeous. Like there will be a lot of doors for her here because
And
even
yes,
her English is also pretty good.
Very proficient. Yeah, very proficient.
Because I'm in a Discord for a game that Jim Cornette's like artist that does like the YouTube things, and he posted a picture. He's like, "Who's this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Mina," but he was just like, "Oh, I want to watch her," and it was a picture of her, and I'm like, "Yeah, she's like." I mean, there is being pretty, and then there's what she is. Like she is like a very striking woman. And like I think there'd be a lot of doors for her here, even past wrestling, just based on that. And she's a very her AEW is very fun. She's a very bubbly person too. Like I think she but like I said, like
she's very charismatic. Yeah.
And the other thing I think us as Americans do take for granted, because we're used to it, is if you're coming over here as a foreigner, the travel is a bitch because this country is massive. And you're talking about Japan where you can probably be home every night. And you're talking sometimes you might have to go more miles than your entire country. Like there are states that are probably bigger than Japan.
There
absolutely are.
People don't appreciate that about America. It is massive. Like I have had the fortune to travel a bit, and including traveling in Europe. And there are a lot of places in Europe that it's like if you are on the westernmost point, so I'm in like Ireland or Great Britain, and I want to travel like all the way, or at least decently across the continent, to be like, I'm gonna go to like Czechoslovakia, like Czech Republic. Like it's maybe a 3-4 hour flight, Yeah,
because you'll see a European post like, is this like, would this itinerary work in the United States? It's like, no. Like that itinerary is 4,000 miles worth of like travel in 3 days. Like you can't do that.
So like, let's say again, like I'm flying from like London to like the Czech Republic, maybe like a 3-hour flight. That's like from DC to like maybe Chicago. I've crossed maybe half the country. I got way more to go. Europe, put Europe in like America, it's like maybe half the country. Maybe.
So the
an entire continent, maybe half
the main center, or the center island of Japan is about the size of California. So then that's like one, it's a big state, but the whole country, right? Like if you just took Japan and dropped it in the US, it would go from, with all of the islands and everything, it'll run from, the Canadian border to the Mexican border, but it's real thin also. And then let me do this real quick, because
I think like for like Europeans too, like if I said like, oh yeah, like once a year I drive down to the beach, it's like 600 miles and takes 12 hours. Like that would that would probably like scandalize people.
Oh, growing up, my family has lived in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington D.C. So I say Washington D.C. is just for comparison, but my family is from Augusta, Georgia, which is like the very northern eastern part of Georgia, to the point where you literally cross a river that's maybe like 100 yards wide at the most from South Carolina, and then boom, you're in Augusta, Georgia. So it's literally across the border between states. And driving it's about 600 miles or so. So it takes, depending on how fast you go, from Washington D.C. to there, 10 to 12 hours. It's easily 10 hours. Could be like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Depends upon how fast you go. And that's, I've only traveled maybe like a third of the country, maybe. Like America's a ponderously large landmass. Like
America's landmass is there's a place called thetruesize.com, not a porn thing, where you can put a country in and then move it around on a.
Shady almost made me spit up my drink.
Damn it! You only get a shot at that every 13 months, and I haven't pulled it off yet. You can like put a country in and grab the outline and move it around on a Mercator map, and what'll happen is it'll distort to kind of match, because a Mercator flattens out the shorter latitudes as you go north and south. The contiguous U.S. is bigger than Europe, or it's the same size as Europe. So, it's big McLarge huge. But could Mina do it? I think Mina's got enough. At the very least, Mina has enough fluency to not have a problem.
I think I know when I was more proficient in Spanish, a week in the Spanish-speaking country, I progressed more than 6 months in a classroom in a week, just having to like practically apply speaking to people, even in like broken Spanish to a degree. But I think I agree with Matt. Like, I don't know what Mayu's going to do, because based on what they've been doing, they've kind of finally started using the next generation, and Mizuki and Mayu seem to be there. Mayu Watanabe seem to be there, who are going to be their top two going forward. So I don't know if they would go back to Mayu.
Miyu? Is it Watanabe or Watanabe?
Whatever.
I'm horrible with pronunciation.
Those are their two top ones, I think, going forward. Because Yuka's gone. Well, she worked the 1-3 show.
Yeah, she's gone. The pillars have kind of like gone. Like, they're not going back to Shoko.
Shoko's still there, but Shoko's kind of in that vet in the mid card kind of role now. Yeah. And Rika's kind of just whatever. I don't even know what they're doing with her, honestly.
Yeah.
She's kind of aimless, and but I think tag division, she seems to really like working with Maki, so I don't know what long term they're going to do with her or what she wants to do, but she might just be content like just working TJPW though and being her, because she's probably had opportunities to leave in the last 5 years and hasn't. But okay, so we're going to go with match of the year. So I'll start us off here. And I picked, this was a hard one actually, because there was a lot to choose from that were bunched together for me, like quality wise. So I went with Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay from Dynasty this year.
I think most people would pick that. I think, that's from, I think Dynasty was in April of last year.
It was that or the Swerve match were my two top ones this year.
Those are both great. They probably should be at the top. I personally, this is based on my love for this particular person. But to me, this is a 5-star match because of emotional investment. It was a great match. So it's not like it's a 2-star match that I'm giving. I would give a 5-star match to, but my match of the year would be Bucks versus Sting Darby.
Yeah, that's
Sting's retirement match.
I think sentimentality makes that one work.
It's to me that I mean, I'm of two minds, because it's like, I mean, look, see, I've got flag right there, okay? Sting, yes. But that kind of feels like cheating, because it's like. And so if I say that one, because that was, obviously everybody there knew what they were doing. They did a great job. I'd pick that one, but if they're like, I mean, come on, if I say that and someone's like, come on, man, like match, then I'm gonna say Danielson Swerve. Danielson Swerve was the hook, was the bait on the hook that I used. That when we had those two friends of mine on. A little while back, that was the bait on the hook. I got them to start watching. That was a match that I watched it and like I was drawn in. There's just like there is a moment where Swerve starts doing Danielson's like kicks to the chest, and Danielson's looking at Bree and his kids at ringside, and every time Swerve kicks him, he starts shouting, "I love you" to them, and works his way back up, and then starts his big comeback, and I'm just sitting there like drawn all the way in, and I'm like, but then on the other hand, here's Sting with his two boys doing like the progression of his career, and I'm like, and you know.
Yeah.
They do that, and they start playing his music, and I'm like, cool, cool, cool. And then all of a sudden, you hear "Search and Destroy" kick up, and I'm marked out here. You know, I'm sitting at my desk watching it, and I'm marked out. So it's like I'm gonna say Sting's retirement match, but then if you're like, come on, man, give me something, and I'm gonna say Danielson Swerve. Like it's gonna be one of those two, depending on what you want by match of the year. If you want, you know,
it may be it may be unfair, Shad, but oh well.
Like, I don't think that's an unfair choice because it was a good match.
I can stipulate that it's like in terms of like, you know, our snowflake quality.
Because emotional payoffs
higher.
Emotional payoffs count though. Like that's
yeah. I'm not gonna do that.
Okay, so let's what was that? Feud of the year. We'll go to feud of the year because that's a good. So are we pretty much in? I think this is going to be the first unanimous vote. So we're all going Hangman Swerve.
Hangman Swerve.
Yeah,
dude. What other feud did you have someone burn down another guy's house and it makes sense, right?
Oh, Hangman did nothing wrong. Right, Chad?
I'm on Hangman's side. Like, it got to a point where it's like, dude, maybe, but on the other, it's like...
Chad, this is the Jack Chick meme.
Oh, God.
Like, rejected his message because he spoke the truth, and it's like, Hangman did nothing wrong, guys. Hangman did nothing wrong.
But I think it had an element, so I think I liked it so much this year, is... It had an element that wrestling rarely does now, and across the board, they just didn't like each other. Like, you don't get that very much anymore. You don't get like, oh, we just don't like each other.
Part of the ways in which wrestling is almost at its peak is at where it does start to blur the lines, and this, to me, like the feud blurs the lines. You know, it's fake. You know that the thing that these guys do in the ring with each other, it's like not only do these guys probably at a minimum respect each other, but probably personally like each other enough that it's like they would not trust each other to do the shit that they did in these matches in this feud if they didn't have the utmost respect for each other. And probably in real life, after these matches, like gave each other a bear hug. It's like, damn, we put on a great match. I love you, bro.
We killed it out there, man.
Yeah. These guys are like probably like this tight in real life, but they made it seem like I hate you, whatever. This goes to like what we talked about earlier. We don't have to repeat it, but that Swerve really elevated himself. Hangman already was like fantastic, but Swerve elevated himself. But it's like you gave another level of yourself, like amazing. Everything amazing.
And this feud had my favorite meme of the year. So this goes back to the Simpsons Halloween episode where Mr. Burns is a vampire. And they're like, oh, Dad, this is blood. He's like, correction, it's free blood. And they did that scene, except it's Adam Page.
Look, the fact that this feud also gave us TNT, it was TBS's YouTube did Spending the Holidays with Hangman, and it was just a loop video of Hangman Page sitting in that easy chair sipping whiskey while the house burned behind him on loop.
They did a Yule log with it?
Yeah. It was just him sitting there in the easy chair sipping whiskey in front of the house burning. I let that play while I was wrapping Christmas presents.
My favorite Yule log is the Witcher one. Where it's like the brazier and it has like the Witcher music played. That's my favorite one.
Shad, did you see like they like tweeted that on like the AEW account, and like Swerve on Twitter like responded. He's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
it's like
Oh, was the GIF meme this year or was it last year? the one where they did like the guys fighting and the guys like breakdancing while the guys are punching each other, and it's like the captions like Paige and Swerve and the guy dancing as Prince Nana. Was that this year? That was also my other favorite meme
I don't
recently.
remember. I don't remember. The feud was unreal. It had amazing heat. It also set precedent because now Swerve has this tendency of when he decides he's going to get somebody, he takes it too far, and then he gets someone who goes absolutely berserk on him and has to pay for it. So, for as far as a foil goes, that's a pretty good foil for someone to have. It's like, dude, you're the one that pushed this too far. I don't care if you're a face or not. Like, you should not have pushed this as far as you did. And then, just humiliating Ricochet and then getting scissored to the head. Not a claim scissored to the head, but like it set up so much good stuff, and so much stuff was like, apparently they had everything planned out right for this feud for Hangman's return. Like, they had all of that ready to go. And by the way, when it comes to Hangman, Swerve is an utter prick. He threatened Swerve's kid in the first go, and then the second go he threatened because he stalked Hangman, taking his wife to the hospital to have their second kid.
Look, like, you guys, I'm telling you, it was all a big misunderstanding. Like, all Swerve was trying to do was stop Hangman from feeding a Mugwai after midnight. Like, you see the bind he was in. Like, you can't have gremlins. You can't have gremlins.
I'm on Hangman's side. He's one of my special guys.
I am
Hangman
team,
and Orange Cassidy are my special guys. So.
I am team. There was a Mugwai being fed after midnight, and Swerve was morally justified.
But he didn't do anything. He broke in their house and left a threat in the baby crib. Like, that doesn't do anything to stop the Mugwai.
There were no gremlins, so it obviously worked, Shad.
I find fault with your logic.
There's no gremlins, so it obviously worked.
Look, man, I find fault with your logic. What's our next category?
Rookie of the Year, which there might not be answers to this. I picked Uda Takami, who is a TJPW rookie. She started She started in I think she started in March. She's pretty good. A little rough around the edges, but she's got a character because she's kind of like a little fire plug with some deviousness where she's kind of learning to jump people and stuff. There's actually I think it's Mahara Kiru. You'd like this gimmick, Shad. So she's some experience, but the idea of her gimmick is she's like a normal person trying to like work it out in wrestling. So like, she's kind of awkward, but she can't handle like the antisocial behavior in wrestling. So like, they did this Royal Rumble kind of thing, and these people are beating each other up, and she's just trying to get in but can't because she doesn't want to like jump in on anyone. She wants to politely start, so she's kind of standing there waiting for her opportunity. So it's kind of like a funny gimmick. Does anyone else have a rookie? I know this one is a touch and go.
I don't have a good answer for this one.
There weren't any great American rookies this year, I don't think. You trying to see if a name pops out at you?
Yeah, I don't know that I have one. I don't know enough about rookies.
I honestly struggle with this. I struggle with this because Japan's really where you can really latch on to like a rookie because they throw them out there a little more, and rookies in the United States tend to be buried in like some pissant promotion that you've never heard of and have no access to, so it's a little harder.
Yeah.
So we'll go to most improved. So most improved, I actually have Braun Breaker this year because I thought he had kind of really stagnated in NXT. I thought the Joe Gacy stuff really damaged him. But he went up to the main roster, and you can see the effect working with good workers like Sammy and Ilya and guys like that have really had on him, and he's really Like, he's really taken a step forward. They should have brought him up to the main roster a lot sooner, or had him working with better people. But I thought he's improved a lot this year.
I think he has improved. I don't think he's improved to the level he would. I don't think he will necessarily pan out to the worker he could be in the WWE ecosystem.
No, I think
he will never probably stray from. So I think he could have reached a different level working elsewhere, but I don't think he ever will. But I do think he's improved. I think he will be a star there. Will he be like main event, big guy, double star? Maybe, I don't know. But he's improved. I don't know. I
think
I didn't pick
he
him.
needs seasoning. Like, I think WWE would be smart. I know they wouldn't do it. Like, I'd send him to like Japan for like 6 months. I may even like, they're working with TNA a bit. I'd even be like, hey, let him work. Like, he can't job, but like, let him work here for a couple months. I think stuff like that would help him.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt they'll do it.
No, they won't.
They don't do it. They don't do anything that.
And if he were to get hurt or something, there would be hell to pay if he got like hurt in Japan or something. So like, I get it from that aspect too.
My most improved is kind of like a tie. I went with Tokyo Joshi Pro. I think Wakana in Tokyo Joshi Pro has improved a lot. That's a
good pick.
Yeah, and also she's been around like I think like 3 years, but I think Yuki Arai, who I think she's improved a ton. Like
did she get a belt this year?
Yeah, she had God, what's the second
the international princess belt.
Yes, she had that for quite a bit, quite a few months, and then she just lost it. She just lost it to Suzume.
Yeah.
Who has also like improved a ton, but she's been improving. Like she's kind of like Miyu Watanabe has kind of reached low because she was the Princess of Princess champion. She was the world title holder. But Suzume is kind of like a little bit below her. She's like edging up. Like, and Suzume is she's a good worker, right?
Suzume is like, this year is like the first time I think they've really pressed her talents. Like, they've really taken her out of her comfort zone. She's working longer matches, working singles. She's changed her look a lot.
Yeah. And she's someone who, like, a year or two down the line is going to be like, I could see her being.
And I think she's really answered the bell really well on what they've asked of her.
Yes. But they just had Yuki lose to her. But Yuki, I think, has improved a ton. And to me, like, they are clearly building towards her being like the world, like the next main event star. And she, for those who don't know, like, she was a legit idol. And is very popular. She was part of like a girl group in Japan. Like, she's legit like a pop, kind of like a pop star, not like Taylor Swift in America.
There's a whole pop. The idol thing in Japan is really it's in Korea too. It's really it's really
she just announced thing. She just announced like she was leaving the group and focusing entirely on wrestling. Which to me, it's like that's the signal. It's like she's improved as a worker, and has a lot of charisma, has a lot of star appeal. Like she
less
will
toxic
probably
fans.
Yes, she will probably in the next year or so be like world title holder or contender. So she's improved a ton, I think, and
I could see her winning the Princess Cup this year.
Yeah, I think it justifiably so. It's one of those people who it's like she's investing and she's like. Of the talent level and charisma level that it's star power level and it's like this makes sense. So
yeah,
I think she's pretty done. Wakana is actually a lot of fun too. Like she's someone who it's like she's like next generation. You could see her like rising.
I think TJPW is interesting for 2025 because I think they had a couple of down years, but they really seem like they're ready this year to have like a really strong year. Like they're not going to beat Stardom or anything like that's not like that. But I think for them they could have a really strong year because one of my 2025 goals is to watch every TJPW show this year, and I'm 5 shows in because I watched all of December, and they're really in a good place with their roster.
Tokyo Joshi Pro, they're available on Wrestle Universe, which is a steal if you don't.
Yeah, because if you get Wrestle Universe, they have DDT, they have Noah, they have Sendai Girls, they have Marigold, they have TJPW. Yep. They have a couple. They have like 2 or 3 others.
Gan Pro.
Michinoku Pro's on there now.
They have like 5 or 6 different promotions.
I think they have 8 promotions, honestly.
They have a lot of content, and I think it costs like $10.
Oh, and DDT, I forgot DDT's on there.
Yeah, it's insane value.
It's like so, $10. It's at most. I think it's like $9 a month. Because they have an app. So Wrestle Universe does have an app on Google, and I think you can just subscribe straight up to it through the Apple Store, and it's $8.99.
Yeah, it's if you like wrestling, it's insane value for like $10 a month.
You literally have a show a day you could watch from like different.
Yeah, and for the cost of basically like 2 Starbucks coffees a month, like you could get essentially like an entire month's worth of content, because it does probably amount to at least like a wrestling show a day.
And they have a week free trial too, so you can do that too.
But to your point, like Tokyo Joshi Pro is a promotion that is consistently at least fun. They have good matches. It's not just like
it's a sports entertainment promotion. I wouldn't compare it to WWE, but they're more in the vein of a sports entertainment company.
It's more the characters. They have good matches.
If you like Stardom and you want a secondary promotion, I actually think they pair up really nice because they're kind of counterbalances to each other. Like where Stardom is a more serious match-based work rate promotion, and then you can balance it off with TJPW where the matches aren't as good, but it's kind of like it's actually a lot like Chikara. That's the vibe I get from it.
It's kind of like that, where you can have some wacky characters or fun stuff, or it's more character driven, but it's entertaining. Like it is consistently like fun.
And there's like fun characters like the last show, like every first show of the year, Shad. So Shoko Nakajima and Hyper Mizuho have like a ridiculous match with some kind of bet on it So this year, like one year they like did like a kaiju match, and they just like had like toys they were like taking bumps off of. But this year Poison Sawada gave Shoko a potion before the match that turned her into a snake person. So then it was a lumber snake match because Poison Sawada had turned a bunch of the wrestlers into snake people. And so the idea was then Hyper wins the match and then gets the antidote and like turns them all back to
no longer a snake person.
Yeah.
So I split my most improved. Sorry. I split it between men's and women's because I liked both of these, and I was like, well, if I get to pick, then I'm going to pick. On the men's side, for me, most improved, I'm going to go with Daniel Garcia, because the guy went from being a dude who's like, I do good ring work, to rounding out the rest of his game in a big way. And I've really, really enjoyed what he's been doing.
Yeah,
he's really been growing.
I really love that match. I liked when he was teaming with Shibata, but like that match where like Shibata is just absolutely just beating this guy senseless, and Daniel Garcia is dancing like in the background as Shibata's just destroying us.
The fact that he lost a match to MJF, but still came out as, quote, the winner, goes a lot for him. I
don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but if you're watching this, I tease Shad on the side because he likes Shibata, and I'm like, yeah, you like Shibata because he's like your spirit animal. Like he's like your idealized, if you could be a wrestler, like, and have the hair and just beat people senseless like Shibata. Like I think Shibata is Shad's spirit animal.
That's what I was effectively trying to do when I was wrestling, is something kind of like that. For the women's most improved, this is gonna be an odd pick, but I'm gonna pick Anna Jay because her excursion over to Japan, like I've always kind of been like, I like Anna Jay. I think she's gonna be, but she's not there, and she's not. She went and did an excursion over in Japan and came back and was miles better. After one, I don't even remember how. It wasn't very long.
It was a tournament. She did She did the 5-star thing.
Okay, well, she did that and then came back and was just miles better in the ring. So
I honestly think
for it to be just such a visual jump to me really stood out.
I honestly think Britt should do it. I think it would do Britt a world of good to do something like that, because I think, like, especially in the U.S., I just think there aren't great avenues to improve, and I think you need to take a tour.
I think Britt might run into problems going over there and trying to boss bitch on somebody that's gonna knock her teeth out.
But I think doing that and having like Saraya like beat her ass in the ring would do her a world of good. Though it might teach her to behave a little more. I want to throw an honorable mention. I don't think any of us would disagree with. I want to throw a Queen Aminata out there.
Yeah.
For most improved, I would actually say less so, but Billy Starks I think deserves a shout out, and I think they really screwed up jobbing her to Athena at Final Battle. Like, I think that was a massive blunder.
I think they were wanting to have Athena go forward with the title into the Japanese shows, but they shouldn't have done the match with Billy then.
No, because Billy had already lost to her once, and I think that it was just a massive mistake on their part. And
yeah.
So then we can do, I think, so the last one is Show of the Year. I think we're all going to pick the same one because of a certain retirement match that happened.
Yeah, I think we're all going to say AEW Revolution.
It's the only show I feel like that felt special this year. Like,
not just because of the retirement match. Like the whole card was good, and I don't think that's entirely fair. All In Wembley was also a special, special event.
I do want to mention. I've wanted to mention All In a couple times because I thought with Wembley this year they did a much better job with the production to make it feel big this year. Whereas last year I think they really kind of failed at that, and this year it was like, you guys did a way better job making this feel big.
I agree with that. They learned from the first go round, and I really appreciate what they put into it.
Yeah. So that is it for our awards show. And like I said, it was a rough year for me because I didn't particularly think it was a great year. Like, there were some standouts here and there, like with like Bryan Danielson and stuff, but like some of the categories are really tough. Like tag team, I was like, I don't know, like I didn't really see anything tag team wise that I really dug this year.
Yeah, that can be hard, especially if it's a year where there's not a whole bunch of. It's difficult.
I feel like the tag division really suffered in AEW, and that's where like the tag team wrestling I think really was thriving for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything anyone wants to bring up before we call it a night?
Covered a lot.
I just went swinging on a vine right into a brick wall. So
yeah, no, I don't have a good answer on that front.
I just hit a wall and I looked and like, oh, it's late and I'm very tired.
Yeah. So, I think we're gonna be done until next week.
So that is it for this week. Thank you everyone as always for joining us. It's great to be back for the new year. I don't know what we're doing next week. We will be hitting USWA in the near future, but we'll let you know what next week is. So thank you for watching as always, and we will catch